Research by Katie Morgan and Ben Hughes, edited by Tara McDermott, and the studio manager was Nikki Edwards.
That was The Inquiry from the BBC. I'm Saroja Coelho here on CBC Radio 1. Have a great day.
Magandang umaga, good morning Manitoba. Faith Fundal here in Studio 15 at Portage and Spence. This is Information Radio on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Listen app, on our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream as well, and shortly on CBC Television. I'm in for Marcy Marcusa. Lots to come on the program today. First, though, we're going to say hello to Matt Humphrey from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. Good morning.
Good morning. More than 300 people packed into the Philippine-Canadian Centre of Manitoba last night, there to honor the 11 people killed and dozens injured during the attack on the Lapu Lapu Day Festival in Vancouver last weekend. Winnipeg is home to the largest per capita Filipino population in Canada, and organizers of last night's event say the hurt caused by the Vancouver attack is deeply felt here. We'll hear more at 6:30. I understand you were there as well.
Yeah, the overwhelming message was your grief is our grief and you're not alone. We'll hear more about the sorts of things that came up last night, but the very big thing that I noticed was when we heard from various faith leaders, people responded from the audience. When Shahina Siddiqui said, Assalamu alaikum, folks responded with alaikum salam. When the rabbi spoke as well, people said shalom in response. It was a thing that really transcended through faith.
Interfaith.
It was an interfaith thing. So
we'll hear more later in the show.
We will as well. Thank you.
Back soon.
Matt Humphrey from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. And lots more to come as well on the program. During our 7 o'clock hour, we'll speak with a Winnipeg woman behind the Jets whiteout merch. So you'll want to hear more about that. In our 8 o'clock half hour, we'll hear from Andre Lewis ahead of his final show with the Royal Winnipeg Ballet. But in our first half hour, have you ever gone to the emergency department with a cut and gotten stitches? Well, there are other things like medical grade skin glue to close cuts instead of a needle and thread. We'll hear more about that from our house doctor, Dr. Raj Bardwaj. I'm Faith Fundal in here for Marcy Marcusa here on Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Abby Adiemi, Corey Funk, our studio director and our technician, and of course Brad Lillies, who is making us all look good streaming on our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream. More to come. Stay tuned. World Report is next.
Today on Q with Tom Power.
Andor, the latest series in the Star Wars franchise, just premiered its second season. Actor Stellan Skarsgård, who plays the rebel leader Luthen Rael, will tell you why there's not really good guys or bad guys in the series, and how half of acting is between the lines.
So what do I sacrifice? Everything!
That's coming up on Q, followed by Commotion with Elamine Abdel Mahmoud on CBC Radio 1, the CBC Listen app, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. The election is over, but the trade war with the United States is not. Prime Minister Mark Carney is supposed to meet with U.S. President Donald Trump soon. And if Mark Carney is going to live up to his campaign promises, he will need to work with partners across federal party lines, provincial lines too. Janice McGregor is in our parliamentary bureau. And Janice, we are still getting a picture of how this government is going to function. What do we know so far?
Marcia, if you look at the priorities that Mark Carney laid out during this campaign, the need to strengthen Canada's hand by investing in energy, transportation, trade corridors, meeting the military's needs, building housing, controlling inflation, there aren't vast differences of opinion about the importance of doing all these things urgently. So the negotiations ahead in this parliament and with the premiers are going to be about how, not what. Even Alberta's Danielle Smith, who started the day with a tough statement about fighting for her province, sounded pretty pragmatic on Power and Politics last night.
This would probably be the time right now to see all of the areas that we can find consensus on and move forward.
In-person talks with Donald Trump are coming up fast. That should focus minds. And there are essentially 8 independent votes in the next House. MPs who are elected as New Democrats or Greens. The option is always open to cut deals with them bill by bill even if nobody wants to sit with the Liberals permanently. And look, even voting together, the Conservative and the Bloc caucuses do not have enough votes to defeat the Liberals. So yes, this is a minority, but it's a big one, and it seems durable, at least for a year or two.
And the Conservatives have their own problems to deal with. Tell us about that.
Pierre Poilievre won't be there when Parliament opens. So when the new Conservative caucus meets in the coming days, its first order of business will be figuring out what to do about that. MP Scott Aitchison, a former leadership contender himself, said this defeat should not spark more party infighting.
The idea of, ousting a leader just because they didn't win government, even after making incredible progress like he has, is a dumb idea. We need to build on the progress that Pierre's already made.
But first, they're going to have to find him a seat. There will be a mandatory leadership review at the party's next convention. At least some of Poilievre's attention now must focus on defending his own job, not challenging Carney's.
All right. Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa. Pakistan is claiming India is ready to attack. The country's information minister says Islamabad has credible intelligence suggesting India could carry out military strikes in the coming days. New Delhi has neither confirmed nor denied this claim, but Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is holding a series of security meetings today, and these heightened tensions come as India accuses Pakistan of being involved in an attack in Indian-administered Kashmir last week. Neha Punya has more.
1 week since gunmen killed 26 tourists in Pahalgam in Indian-administered Kashmir, Indian leaders are in a huddle. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has reportedly told his defence minister and the heads of the Navy, Army and Air Force they have, quote, complete operational freedom to decide on the mode, targets and timing of India's response. Professor Bidadana Chengappa is a defence analyst.
The Pahalgam killings have certainly whipped up jingoistic nationalism. A shooting war is something that may occur in terms of limited war.
Pakistan's information minister Attaullah Tarar has warned that Islamabad will respond if New Delhi carries out strikes.
The onus of escalatory spiral and its ensuing consequences shall squarely lie with India.
But as leaders spar, it's people on both sides of the border who are bearing the brunt of escalating tensions. India and Pakistan have expelled each other's citizens, with a land border between the two countries set to close today. Praveena is a Pakistani national and says she is now stateless.
I have been living in India for the last 41 years. I have nowhere to go. I'm helpless.
India and Pakistan have a long, bitter history. The two nuclear-armed neighbours have fought 3 wars and have long sparred over Kashmir, a region they both govern in parts but claim in full. But this is the lowest ties have been in several decades. Neha Punya for CBC News, New Delhi.
In southern India, a temple wall collapsed, killing at least 8 people. It happened in the state of Andhra Pradesh. Officials say people were standing in a line for an annual religious celebration when the wall suddenly fell. This local government official says there were likely many factors at play.
There was a torrential downpour between 2:30 to 3:30 in the morning, very early hours. The downpour was also accompanied by heavy winds. So both heavy winds and huge gush of water flowing suddenly into this area caused this incident is our preliminary expectation.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has offered condolences to the families of victims. As it prepares for a 3-day ceasefire to take effect next week, Russia is intensifying its attacks on eastern Ukraine. There was a wave of drone strikes against the cities of Dnipro and Kharkiv overnight. Officials say 1 person was killed, 50 others were injured. Crystal Gomansing is following developments from London.
Emergency responders talk over a radio as they hold an elderly woman, guiding her in the dark through debris. The city of Kharkiv once again came under attack. More than 100 drones hit overnight into Wednesday morning, according to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. In an online post, he called for additional pressure, including sanctions, to force Russia into a ceasefire. France's foreign minister told the UN Security Council Tuesday the sole obstacle to peace in Ukraine is the Russian President Vladimir Putin. The U.S., meanwhile, is getting ready to walk away from talks. This statement was read on behalf of Secretary of State Marco Rubio yesterday.
We are now at a time where concrete proposals need to be delivered by the two parties on how to end this conflict. How we proceed from here is a decision that belongs now to the president. If there is not progress, we will step back as mediators.
Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov says the president remains open to political and diplomatic methods of resolving the conflict. He says Putin is open to direct talks with Ukraine, but it is Russia's duty to win the conflict. Crystal Gamansing, CBC News, London.
The trial for an Australian woman who allegedly poisoned her in-laws has started. 50-year-old Erin Patterson is facing 3 murder charges. Prosecutors argue Patterson served her husband, his parents, and aunt a beef Wellington with toxic mushrooms 2 years ago. All 4 guests became sick shortly after the meal. Lawyers told the court she invited them over for a lunch date they could not refuse. Patterson denies all charges. Her lawyers called the deaths a terrible accident. U.S. President Donald Trump is trying to soften the blow of some of his auto tariffs. Trump signed 2 executive orders yesterday. They will provide some relief on vehicle imports into the U.S. That will come through a mix of credits and reimbursements. But the 25% tariffs on auto imports will continue. And he says the 25% levies on auto parts will take effect as planned on May 3rd. Trump signed the orders right before holding a rally in Michigan, the heart of America's auto industry. The U.S. president marked his first 100 days in office there. The CBC's Paul Hunter was at the rally.
In 100 days, we have delivered the most profound change in Washington in nearly 100 years.
At his rally in Michigan, marking those 100 days, Trump listed some of the change the U.S. has seen since he moved back into the White House, not least those tariffs on, it seems, just about everything from other countries, including those targeting Canada's multi-billion-dollar auto industry. Says Trump to force jobs back into the U.S.
They all want to come back to Michigan and build cars again. You know why? Because of our tax and tariff policy.
A policy Trump hopes will achieve that, even if, as is already happening, it drives up prices in the U.S.
USA! USA! USA!
Among the faithful lined up outside before the rally, Trump backer Norma Holm from Indiana on that.
That the tariffs, it is going to be bumpy for a while, but we have to be patient. This mess has developed for a while, so it's not going to go away in 100 years.
Are you willing to pay higher prices in the short term to get that in the long term?
Yes, I am.
Even as polls across the U.S. suggest support for Trump is falling, among his hardcore supporters at that rally, a consistent message remains in place. Trust in Trump. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Macomb County, Michigan.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime at cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Magandang umaga, good morning, Manitoba. Faith Fundal here, in for Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Your grief is our grief, and you're not alone. The message at a vigil last night in Winnipeg, one of several organized across the country. We'll hear how Filipinos and supporters reflected the victims of a festival killed and injured when a man drove through a crowd of people on the weekend. We'll hear about that. Change is on the way now that NDP leader Jagmeet Singh has resigned. We'll see what happens next with that party and hear thoughts about Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre's next moves. But first, if you've ever gone to the emergency department and needed stitches, there are new things that folks are using now, including medical-grade glue. We'll hear all about it coming up here in the program. First, though, in studio joining us from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk, Matt Humphrey. Good morning.
Good morning. As Faith touched on, hundreds packed the Philippine Canadian Centre of Manitoba last night for a ceremony honoring the victims of Vancouver's tragic attack. 11 people died and dozens were injured after an SUV rammed into a street festival crowd. Several ceremonies were held across the country last night, and we'll hear from the one in Winnipeg throughout the show. And Brandon's police chief says frontline workers are facing more violence tied to drug use. Police were on scene early Monday morning at Brandon's hospital to arrest a man who choked and tried to stab an emergency room nurse with a needle. We'll get more details at the bottom of the hour.
All right, thanks very much.
Back soon.
Matt Humphrey from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. Brad Lillies is making us all look and sound good on our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream and on CBC television. Good morning. And Corey Funk is making sure that I'm awake. And it's a different shift from the afternoon shift to the morning shift. Corey is our studio director. You're going to talk about the roads in a minute. But first, I'm going to also say hello to Abby Adeyemi, who is following the forecast. Abby, I woke up and I didn't listen to anybody, and I was going to scoot.
But
what is this?
It's a mixed bag outside, and that's what we're getting today. The south will be seeing a light rain starts in the day. Mild conditions, a few rain showers here and there. The north will stay cold. Some snow might be spotted in some regions, but let's talk about Winnipeg now. It's 5 degrees outside, light rain falling across the city. As we go through the morning, this rain will be like on and off. Then we'll see a mix of sun and clouds sometime after your lunch break. And this slim chance of showers is still going to return in the afternoon. Then we'll see some breeze come from the south, making it feel a bit windy as we get into the afternoon. We warm up to 18 degrees though, faked, so that is a good one today. 18 degrees, we're aiming close to that 20 degrees that we used to enjoy for the summer period. And across board, we're seeing 6 and 7 degrees in the southern region. But right now, Winnipeg, we are at 5.
All right. Thanks very much, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey Funk is, well, you're braver than I am because you actually did commute out there.
Yeah, but also it wasn't the smartest about it either. I did the same thing where I'm like, oh, it's just a day, and then I walk outside, sure enough, it's raining, and then I show up with nothing. No worse way to start the day than with wet thighs, like pants. They're like, oh, they're still kind of drying off right now. It's zero fun. So definitely if you're heading outside today, especially if you're active commuting, definitely want to wear some rain pants out there. Though haven't heard of any major issues. If you do see something going on, give me a call. I will say southbound Keewaydin today at Logan is actually going to be closed starting today until May 30th due to sewer work. So if that's part of your commute, make sure you maybe find another route. Give me a call though if you see anything else though. 204-788-3093.
We're at 14 and a half minutes after 6 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. And if you've had surgery recently or been to a doctor about a cut, you may have been surprised to learn about the different options now available to close a wound. The CBC's Corey Funk spoke with House Dr. Raj Bhardwaj.
Good morning, Corey.
So first of all, how would a person know if a cut needs to be seen by a doctor as opposed to, putting a bandage on it at home and just, letting it heal?
Yeah, I think you can divide cuts into sort of 3 big groups. There's the ones that obviously need medical attention. There's the ones that obviously don't. And then there's this big middle category of sort of, judgment call. So the ones that obviously need medical attention are the ones that are dirty and gaping open, or if they're longer, deeper, they won't stop bleeding after 10 or 15 minutes of direct pressure. And then the other thing is if they involve some important anatomy, either from a functional standpoint, like if they involve a fingertip or a joint, or from a cosmetic standpoint, like a cut on your face, for example. And then lastly, if the cut is a result of a crush injury, you got your finger caught in the car door, or from a bite, whether that's an animal bite or a human bite, then for sure those are the types of wounds that a doctor should have a careful look at. On the other hand, there are wounds that can probably be handled at home. It's pretty small, it's pretty clean. You can clean it well with simple soap and water, no alcohol, no iodine, no hydrogen peroxide. The cut stops bleeding with direct pressure. It's not on a cosmetically important area. Then you can probably avoid a trip to the ER. And then the third group are the hard ones, right? They don't clearly fall into the first 2 categories. Maybe they stop bleeding, but then as soon as you start moving your hand or your wrist or something, then it opens up and starts bleeding again. And for something like that, it's often a judgment call. So better to err on the side of caution and either, talk to your family doc or get some medical advice or go in and get it checked out. And ideally, you don't want to wait too long. The sooner we deal with a laceration, the better. So ideally less than 6 hours. But within 24 hours for sure, if we can, to lower the risk of infection and scarring.
And before we move on, though, why not use, alcohol, iodine, or peroxide to clean a cut?
Yeah, I feel like our moms slapped that stuff on us like they were going, out of style or something. But they have gone out of style because it's literally overkill. So all three of those things, alcohol, iodine, peroxide, they certainly do kill germs, but they also kill the cells that are trying to do good for us, stop the bleeding, fight the infection, even the little baby skin cells that are trying to heal the wound. And there's evidence that if you routinely use alcohol, peroxide, or iodine to clean wounds or to clean damaged skin, it actually takes longer to heal. And it can increase the risk of infection, and it might even worsen scarring as well, just because it's taking longer to heal, and you're killing the healing skin as it goes, right? So plain old, tap water and some mild soap are fine. And, if you're out in a park or something like that and you bail and you scrape your knee and you don't have soap, even just flushing the cut with nice cold tap water without soap is okay at the beginning. And then you can use some soap and some water and some gentle washing a little bit later on.
So if a cut needs to be closed, what are the options then these days?
Yeah, so in the past, it was always a needle and thread, right? So first a needle to freeze the skin around the cut, and then a needle and thread to sew the cut closed. These days, we've got a couple of other important options. I mean, if you've ever had surgery recently, you might have gotten staples instead of stitches to close your surgical incision. We use those even, in the emergency room and the urgent care to do things like closing scalp wounds and stuff like that. But these days, more and more, we're using glue. We're using skin adhesives, medical skin glue. It's actually related to crazy glue and super glue. They're all part of the same sort of family of chemicals. They're called cyanoacrylate polymers. And these skin glues have actually been around since the 1940s, and they've been used in medicine since the 1950s. And there's a bunch of advantages to using those. They hurt less. We often don't even need to freeze the skin. They can cause less scarring since it doesn't leave tiny little poke holes in your skin like stitches or staples do. It doesn't need another appointment to remove it. The glue just sort of falls off on its own over a week or so. And really important for kids, but also lots of adults. The glue is less scary. Again, because no needle, right? And because gluing is usually faster than sewing a cut, so we don't need to be holding kids down for a long period of time or anything like that. The main downside is the glue might not be quite as strong as stitches, although the newer glues that we use nowadays are much stronger, much more flexible than the original ones from the 1950s. And then there is a theoretical chance of an allergic reaction to the glue, like you get a little rash from the glue. Although, I don't think I've seen one of those in over 15 years of using modern skin glues.
And those medical skin glues, are they different at all from store-bought glue? Like, could I technically, if I'm in a pinch, I don't have it nearby, I got a cut, I got a glue shut, could I just go over to my workbench and just grab the crazy glue and glue it shut? To save a trip to the ER?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, Corey, but please don't do that. It's kind of like DIY for some things around your house. Like it's probably okay to change a light bulb, but probably not a great idea to rewire your house on your own. You might want to get a specialist to do that. The main problem is not just the technique and the know-how. The other thing is the actual type of super glue. So medical super glue is different than non-medical super glue. Like I said, they all belong to the same class of chemicals called cyanoacrylate polymers. And what that means is that they're made out of little small molecules that start out liquid, and then when they are exposed to water in the atmosphere or water on your skin, they start to bind together in a polymerization reaction. It's actually a chemical reaction, and that creates longer chains like Lego blocks attaching together, and it changes from a liquid to a solid. That process of linking the little molecules together is a chemical reaction that gives off heat. And depending on the particular kind of glue, it can actually give off a lot of heat. So if you apply non-medical super glue to your cut, you can actually burn your skin. And I have seen this where somebody comes in and they've got a cut and they've got a bunch of glue around the cut and they've got blisters and stuff from burning their skin from the non-medical super glue. So yeah, you got to be real careful with it, and you got to use the right stuff, and you've also got to know how to do it. The other thing is that some non-medical grade super glues can give off toxic fumes or break down into toxic chemicals over time, whereas the newer medical grade super glues don't. So, best to get the right stuff done by the right person.
I'll keep the crazy glue on the workbench. So, if a person gets their cut closed with, medical grade glue, can they get it wet? Are there any kind of special precautions that they need to take?
Yeah, for sure. So there are a few things that your doctor will go over with you, but in general, it's okay to wash the wound. You don't want to scrub it, but it's okay to get it wet. It's okay to use a little bit of soap on it. It's not okay to soak it, though. So swimming and hot tubs and stuff like that are out until the wound is fully healed. And also, the glue gets soft and falls off more quickly if you get anything oily on it. So you have to be careful not to get oil on the cut, whether that's, getting oil on your hands in the kitchen or workshop or something like that. But also, for a lot of cuts, people want to put polysporin or Vaseline or some sort of, ointment on their cut. But if you've got glue on there, it'll just make the glue fall off more quickly. So don't use anything like that. And then also alcohol and things like acetone, like in nail polish remover, can actually dissolve the cyanoacrylate glues. So again, you don't want to get anything like that on your hands or on your glue. Now, a lot of people hear that and figure, ooh, if I do get crazy glue and accidentally glue my fingers together, I could use acetone to remove it. You could, not necessarily a great idea, because acetone on your nail is different than acetone on your skin, and not as safe to be on the skin. So it's actually best to, if that something like that happens where you accidentally glue yourself to something or yourself to yourself, then best to call poison control, and they can talk you through what to do and whether it's safe to use nail polish remover, or if you should just see a doctor, stuff like that.
Good to know. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Bardwaj.
My pleasure.
That is House Dr. Raj Bardwaj, Urgent Care and Emergency Department doctor in Calgary. You might notice that it sounded different, and that's because Dr. Bardwaj spoke with Corey Funk at a very busy Salisbury house during one of our post-election shows on Information Radio yesterday. Speaking of which, 3 Manitoba seats are changing hands in the 2025 federal election here in Manitoba. We've heard that Kildonan and St. Paul will be held by incumbent Conservative candidate Raquel Dancho. But some folks may not be returning to the House of Commons. At least one of Canada's major political parties will be searching for a new leader. Questions also remaining about what happens to the leader of the official opposition. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh lost his own seat and then promptly resigned. And of course, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre lost his seat, but his future is less certain. Lydia Miljan is a political science professor at the University of Windsor, also a senior fellow at the Fraser Institute. She joins us now near Windsor, Ontario. Good morning. Hello.
Good morning. Nice to be here.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, let's start with him. What do you think is going through his mind right now as he decides the leadership of his party?
Yeah, he's probably trying to figure out whether or not the party will want to keep him on. I mean, he's obviously going to face a leadership review, and he's got a lot of problems. Certainly the least of which is the fact that he doesn't have a seat in the House of Commons, but also that whether or not the party is going to stick with him is another question for him. And it's a hard one because here they had the best showing they've had ever in terms of popular support, but it wasn't enough to win a government. If you think back to 2011 when Stephen Harper won his majority, he won with actually lower popular support than what Poilievre was able to achieve.
And you have at least one Conservative MP, the lone Conservative MP in Nova Scotia, saying, please don't take anyone else's seat away. How does that work? He is going to need a seat if he is going to be the leader of the Conservative Party and be able to do his thing, argue in the House.
Yes, I mean, so somebody has to give up their seat. Either they can be gently asked and given some other perk for that, or they can volunteer themselves and to say that it's more important for me to have the leader of the party interrogate the new prime minister and the new government than it is for me to sit as a backbencher. So, I mean, there are pathways. There are people that do this, and this isn't the first time it's ever happened that a leader hasn't won their seat. It's happened to premiers in the past, and they were able to get through it. The question then becomes, what's the timing going to be? Because ultimately, if somebody resigns their seat, it triggers a by-election, but it's up to the prime minister to decide when that by-election is going to have, at least within the next 6 months. And so that also gives them a risk of A, they could potentially lose that seat, but also B, they've got to wait for whenever the prime minister decides that they're going to have that election. And so it's a tough position that the party's facing.
I mean, you already mentioned it. There's no question that Pierre Poilievre was able to bring gains to the Conservative Party. But then you hear some MPs question the campaign, question his leadership. How hard is it going to be for him, do you think, for caucus and for the Conservative Party, for him to convince all of those folks that he will be the best person to lead the Conservative Party of Canada?
Yes, they're almost a victim of their own success. I mean, they were so effective at prosecuting Justin Trudeau that Justin Trudeau resigns. They certainly decimated the NDP almost to their own demise themselves. I mean, the thing about politics in Canada is that the Conservatives actually benefit from a split on the left, and by taking away the sort of the thunder of the NDP. And sure, they flipped a lot of NDP seats to go Conservatives, but equally the Liberals were able to gain this very strong minority government situation. So at the end of the day, as effective as they were, Poilievre was certainly repelling certain segments of the voting population. There were groups of people who were just unwilling to listen to him. They just did not like him. They thought of him as being too negative. And so even though he had changed his image and he had softened things up, those people weren't listening. And so that's where the party has to think, it's like, how do we get that sort of secret sauce where we get somebody who can both attack the government on point, but can deliver a message that is open to a bigger segment of the population. And in particular, the Conservatives really do have a problem with women voters.
You mentioned Jagmeet Singh. I watched his concession speech. Some of the things, do you think voters were able to see him as a potential alternative to dealing with Donald Trump?
Oh, not at all. I mean, Jagmeet Singh certainly wasn't even part of that conversation, and that was they had a lot of problems. You know, one was that they were just pushed out of the news cycle with the resignation of Justin Trudeau, and also with the emergence of Donald Trump. But the other issue is that they really weren't talking about the issues that Canadians cared about, at least leading up to the election campaign. They had really been focused on the war in Israel, the conflict between Hamas and Israel. They had allowed the Conservatives to really ebb away at their blue-collar support. You know, the Conservatives were really focused on middle-class, blue-collar, working-class people, and the NDP seemed to have lost their way on that, and which is bizarre, given that the NDP were so effective in getting the Liberals under Justin Trudeau to move towards, you know, extra payments on CERB during the pandemic, but also have a pharmacare program and a national dental care program. So they didn't get credit for any of that, and they got all the blame for other things.
Lydia, we could spend an hour or more talking about this. It's all the time we have. Thanks for this.
Thanks for calling.
Lydia Miljan is a political science professor at the University of Windsor. Lots to come here on Information Radio. Stay tuned. Your CBC Winnipeg News is next.
This is CBC News. At 6:30, we're at 5 degrees with light rain over downtown Winnipeg. Good morning. I'm Matt Humphrey. Several ceremonies were held across the country this week in the wake of the tragedy in Vancouver.
Lupang hinirang, tuyan ka nang magiting, sa manlulupig, di ka pasisiil.
It's Geraldine Bulaong singing the Filipino national anthem during a vigil last night in Winnipeg. 11 people were killed and dozens more were hurt after an SUV plowed through a Vancouver street festival Saturday night. Bayani Marcelino and his wife, Esperanza, have relatives who plan to attend the festival. They were relieved to learn they weren't hurt, but they still deeply are shaken and felt they had to pay their respects to the victims.
Last night I can't sleep because for me, they're all family. We are all family because they are Filipino.
A 30-year-old man faces several charges, including second-degree murder. The union representing Manitoba nurses says a recent assault on a nurse at the Brandon Hospital reflects a growing wave of healthcare worker abuse. Early Monday morning, Brandon police arrested a man after he choked and tried to stab an emergency room nurse with a needle. Manitoba Nurses Union President Darlene Jackson says violence and abuse in emergency departments is increasing, and she worries abuse on the job is becoming part of a daily routine.
The bad thing is that's why nurses are really not reporting it. It's like you get so used to it that it's just like, well, at least they didn't hit me. At least they didn't punch me. You know, I only got spat on and sworn at. And none of that is acceptable.
Prairie Mountain Health says it's investigating the assault and increasing security at the hospital. The Liberal candidate who flipped an NDP stronghold in northern Manitoba says her constituents want to see economic growth. Rebecca Chartrand defeated New Democrat Nikki Ashton in Churchill-Kuwait-Nook-Aski by more than 3,400 votes. Ashton had represented the riding in the House of Commons since 2008 and beat Chartrand in the 2015 election. The area is home to one of the largest percentages of First Nations people in Canada. Today marks the 50th anniversary of the fall of Saigon and the end of the Vietnam War. The conflict involved more than a dozen countries, lasted 2 decades, and cost hundreds of thousands of lives. It also led to the displacement of close to 1 million people, many of whom spent years in refugee camps before finding new homes in other parts of the world. Winnipeg doctor Chow Pham was one of those people. She was just 5 when her family made the painful choice to send her away from South Vietnam.
And I couldn't quite piece together what was going on, but I knew it was not right. In the eyes of a 5-year-old, I knew that I was losing my family.
Pham endured hardships and tragedy during the 2 years she spent in a refugee camp in Thailand. In 1990, she was finally reunited with her family in Winnipeg. Down south, U.S. President Donald Trump held a rally last night in Michigan to mark his first 100 days in office, and he lashed out at the Canadian auto industry.
I said, we really don't want your cars. We really don't want. We want to make our own cars. That includes Canada. That includes Mexico, who have taken a tremendous amount of our business. Canada's taken off a tremendous, like 10, 12%. We don't want them to have that. We want that. Why are we giving it to them? Why are we subsidizing Canada $200 billion a year?
Yesterday, Trump signed a pair of executive orders to soften the blow of his auto tariffs after some American companies complained. And finally, a Winnipeg business owner says it's a dream come true to print towels and other merchandise for the Winnipeg Jets during the playoffs. Michelle Cameron of Dreamcatcher Promotions and her team have been hard at work pumping out white apparel. Cameron says there's also added pride being an Indigenous-owned local business, working with the team at the most important time of the season.
It's hope that we can do this, and there's opportunities that we've never seen before. So for me, that's why this is such a proud moment for me, right? Because we're setting the bar and we're setting up a path for other Indigenous entrepreneurs to have the same opportunities I had.
Cameron says they've already printed tens of thousands of towels for round 1, but she's hoping they'll keep winning starting tonight at 8:30. So they can keep printing whiteout merch all the way to the Stanley Cup final. And that's your CBC News from Winnipeg.
Don't jinx it, Matt.
I'll try not to.
Get out of here.
Back soon.
Thanks, Matt Humphrey from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. Magandang umaga, good morning, Manitoba. Faith Fundal here in Studio 15. I'm in for Marcy Marcusa. As you heard on the news there, we'll head inside the Philippine-Canadian Centre of Manitoba to hear more from why people showed up there and to hear about how it went. That's coming up in this half hour of the program. First, though, Abby Adiemi has a look at the weather. Hopefully this rain will go away, because I would like to scooter.
Soggy start, yes, my friend. Though we still need to allow this light rain to extend this morning. It will clear later up. Then we'll see a mix of sun and clouds in most of the southern regions. While up north, it's kind of colder there. We might be seeing flurries in some regions. Looking at conditions in Winnipeg at this time. Light rain still falling. They should clear as we get to the mid-morning point. I expect a mild high of around 18 to 19 degrees today with some breezy conditions from the south. Tonight, the sky stays clear, and then we'll see some cloudy conditions roll in. Temperatures will be deep into around 3 degrees as we go to bed tonight. Similar conditions we're seeing in the Pembina Valley region. We're looking at Morden, Winkler, Morris, Altona, all the way down to the U.S. border. We're seeing 6 degrees, 7 degrees in that part of the province. Light rain also falling. That should taper off by the noon period. Then we'll see the sky stay mostly cloudy with light winds from the south, which will turn mild later. Highs also similar to Winnipeg, around 18 and 19 degrees. Heading west to Brandon, 7 degrees at this point. Light rain showers falling in that part of the province. Once that clears off, we'll see some clear conditions. Brandon is going to see a mix of sun and clouds as the day progresses. The winds will be light from the south. Temperatures will climb close to 20 degrees for folks in Brandon today. We'll see it around 19 and almost 20 today. In the Parkland region, Dauphin at 4 at this time. Clear skies you do have. You get to see some foggy conditions. You don't have rain, but some foggy conditions in the Parkland region this morning, so be careful on the highways. Once that clears off, you see a mix of sun and clouds. Light winds will come from the southeast. Highs will be around 19 degrees, and then tonight some clouds will roll in. In the Interlake region, we're looking at light showers this morning for Gimli and surrounding areas. A mix of sun and clouds in the forecast. Current temperature sits at 3 degrees. Highs will get to 14 today. Light winds will be coming from the south as well. And now we head into the northern regions. The powerful influence surrounding areas. We're looking at some clear conditions this morning. Temperatures around 3 degrees. The day will bring a mix of sun and clouds. A slim chance of rain in the forecast. The winds will be light coming from the northwest. Highs around 11. In Thompson, you are at 0 at this point. It's mostly cloudy out there. There's a chance of flurries or rain this morning. Light northwest winds. Highs today will be around 6 degrees. And then further north, you travel to Churchill. You're seeing temperatures around -6 with mostly cloudy conditions. The winds will be shifting directions to the north, making it feel breezy at times. And then later in the day, we're going to see temperatures drop to around, with the wind chill factored in. That's for folks in Churchill. It's going to feel like -23 this morning. So it's still pretty cold up there. Just to sum it up, Faith, across the province, we're looking at a mix of light rain, cloudy skies in the south, and then up north, we're still getting cooler, like winter-like conditions up there.
I know I have my Winnipeg privilege when I talk about the weather, so duly noted. All right, thanks very much.
5 degrees in Winnipeg at this time.
Abby Adeyemi, our technician here on the program. Hello to the folks watching us on our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream and on CBC Television. Brad Lillies is the person making us all look and sound good. Someone who I know has been following whiteout things as well. Corey Funk, our studio director. Hello.
Hello. Yes. So today, traffic-wise, keep in mind, starting at 9 a.m. today, Donald Street between Portage and St. Mary Avenue is going to be closed until tomorrow at 7 a.m. So that might throw off your commute if you're going through downtown. As well, eastbound, westbound Graham Avenue between Hargrave Street and Smith Street starting today as well at 9 until tomorrow at 7 a.m. is also going to be closed for the whiteout party. Another reminder, southbound Keewatin starting today is closed for sewer work entirely at around Logan. So, and that's expected to last until May 30th. So if your commute involves southbound Keewatin around Logan, you're going to want to find another way to get where you need to go for the next month or so. If you see anything else going on out there, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks very much, Corey Funk.
Thank you.
We're at just about 20 minutes before 7 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. And of course, U.S. tariffs, trade tensions, all those things are things that Mark Carney will have to think about. We're going to hear about what his plan might be. But first, to your CBC National Business Desk, Phil DeMont joining us. Good morning.
Morning, Faith.
And speaking of U.S. tariffs, a lot of excitement earlier this week about possible tariff relief on cars and trucks. What did Washington actually do?
Less than meets the eye. Trump government announced some tariff relief for car makers, but only on a relatively small amount of production. The announcement had been built up as something bigger. That's when he's in Michigan. Instead, Washington will give car makers in the U.S. some relief on foreign parts used in vehicles assembled domestically. Trump administration also plans to give automakers some relief on what are called stacking tariffs. That's tariffs in place on aluminum and steel that wind up increasing the price of a finished car. So the math here, Faith, basically tax break equal to 3.75%. of the car's value this year, 2.5% next year. The 25% tariff on cars going into the U.S., that's going to remain in place, and that's really what auto executives on both sides of the border were pushing for, to get rid of that thing. Still, though, it's a rough calculation, and it is rough. That's a savings of about $1,700 on the average car price in the U.S., $48,000, but it's not clear how the companies actually apply for the tariff reduction relief. Sometimes Washington announces a number, and then they don't really tell you how to get to the number. Up here, the response among car and car parts makers was a collective eye roll. The hope was, like you said, that Washington would pause those tariffs on Canadian cars and car parts going into the U.S. That didn't happen. But as David Adams, CEO of Global Automakers of Canada, says, better than nothing.
I feel like going to talk about Royal Bank saying it's dropping its targets for financially, environmentally responsible projects. What does that mean? What's going on?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful, but I think it's a blow to Mark Carney and his push to get banks to switch to pro-green lending. Back in 2021, RBC said it would commit by 2025 to lending out about $500 billion in financing for environmentally friendly projects. Instead, Canada's biggest bank said it's dropping that goal and blamed the government's new anti-greenwashing legislation. Those are rules designed to prevent companies claiming to be environmentally sensitive without actually doing anything. But RBC said it was using metrics to measure its progress that aren't the same as the new rules. So it's basically retiring the $500 billion commitment, I guess, rather than saying they couldn't meet it. RBC's move could be a bigger problem for Ottawa if other banks decide to follow the lead. It's the second move this year by Royal in stepping away from environmental financing. Earlier this year, RBC, along with other financial institutions, walked away from the Net Zero Banking Alliance. It's an organization, global one, designed to get private capital into these kind of pro-green projects. But that move, that walking away, was a blow to Carney because he actually spearheaded the alliance back when he was UN envoy for climate action. Some of the rationale is economic uncertainty, whether it's Trump's tariffs or the environmental policies. Experts say that uncertainty is forcing companies to halt work on non-financial initiatives while they assess the fallout from Washington.
Phil, what is the connection with chocolate bars, pistachios, and pregnant women? You'll have to explain this.
It's the power of TikTok, my friend.
Okay.
Maybe Costco, too. It's the Dubai chocolate. That's a milk chocolate bar filled with phyllo dough and pistachio cream, created by a chocolatier in Dubai when she was pregnant back in 2021. So it became a viral phenomenon. A social influencers flogged the tasty treat, and it became popular among apparently pregnant women. Dubai's chocolate became popular, so much so that Britain's Deliveroo made it one of its top trending dishes in the last year, 2024. That despite its hefty price tag, 6 bars for $100 US. Not surprisingly, retailers jumped on that bandwagon, hence the Costco connection. But Costco's move and the bar's overall popularity has been blamed for spiking pistachio prices, up 35% in recent months. The U.S. apparently is the largest pistachio producer in the world, but they've been having trouble, especially in California, where they produce a lot of pistachios. That crop down 20%.
No kidding. Fascinating. The markets, how are the numbers today?
Right now, actually pretty decent. Europe, they have earnings out that's driving France, UK, and Germany all up marginally. Asia, a little more mixed with data coming from China and Australia. They're trying to figure out which way it's going. So the Nikkei in Japan was up 0.5%, but the Shanghai market in China was down. Oil's off 40 cents, $60.02 US a barrel. Gold's down $46, $3,288 US an ounce. And the Canadian dollar, I have it basically flat, 72.29 cents US.
Phil, happy hump day.
Thanks, Faith.
Middle of the week, right?
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Phil Dumont at your CBC National Business Desk. We're at 15 minutes before 7 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1, 645. I'm Faith Fundal, in for Marcy Marcusa. Outside, the Philippine flag flew at half-mast. Inside, people cried. Some held those beside them, others singing as a violinist played a song about losing a loved one. More than 300 people showed up at the Philippine Canadian Centre of Manitoba, there to grieve and to honor the 11 people killed at a Vancouver festival attack. The CBC's Ian Fraze was there and files this report.
One by one, Filipinos in Winnipeg grieve for those lost and injured on Saturday, when a driver slammed into a Vancouver street festival celebrating their culture. 11 are dead, dozens more injured.
Last night I can't sleep because for me, they're all family. We are all family because they are Filipino.
In Winnipeg, more than 300 people attended a vigil. Standing room only. People cried. Ushers handed out tissues. Then, as a violinist played a traditional Filipino song about loss, mourners approached a table lined with candles and photos of the victims. The violinist kept playing as people kept lining up.
The family that lost their mother, father, kids, and something like that, your grandfather. And I wish I can hug them and give my regard to them.
Organizer Jeline De La Cruz says Filipinos everywhere are feeling the loss.
We have this value, this word called kapwa, which means that when you hurt, when you go through hardship, no matter where you are, no matter who you are, I do too. We all do.
She knows a father and his 2-year-old son who were injured in the attack. The child remains in intensive care.
We are a relentless people, and we will get through this.
This couple says relatives plan to go to that street festival that day, but changed their mind.
Right away we called them and thanks to God they're all free.
Leaders from different faith groups also spoke.
If you need an auntie, if you need a shoulder, please call, please come.
A message of love for a community in need. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
I was there as well, and the overwhelming message was, your grief is my grief, and you're not alone. I also spoke with one of the organizers, NDP MLA Jeline De La Cruz. You can find that interview where she spoke about why this was an interfaith and nonpartisan event. Find the conversation on the CBC Listen app or on our CBC Manitoba YouTube page. By the way, the song you heard played by the violinist is called Hindi Kita Malilimutan, a song popularized by Filipino singer Basil Valdez, translating to I Will Never Forget You, a song about losing a loved one.
Celebrate a stunning overtime goal with a burger at McDavid's. A steak sauce capitalizes on a press conference gaffe.
Now, okay, let's see A1 and how can that be helpful?
And updating a 25-year-old message. Seizing the moment on Under the Influence with Terry O'Reilly. Thursday morning at 11:30, 3:30 p.m. in Newfoundland. And on demand on CBC Listen.
Coming up to 11 and a half minutes before 7 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Listen app, and of course on our CBC Manitoba YouTube page and on CBC Television. Hello, welcome. It is a song that's been covered by many artists, including Bonnie M, Roxette, and even Johnny Cash. Yes, we're talking about Neil Young's classic Heart of Gold. Now, Fiona Apple has put her own twist on the tune for a new tribute album to Neil Young called Heart of Gold, The Songs of Neil Young, Volume 1. Proceeds going to a project to the Bridge School, nonprofit, co-founded by Young's late ex-wife, Peggy Young, which supports children with severe speech and physical impairments. Other artists on the album include the Lumineers, Brandy Carlisle, and Eddie Vedder and Mumford & Sons. Take a listen. Fiona Apple now with her take of Heart of Gold.
It's these expressions I never give. They keep me searching for a heart of gold. And I'm getting old. They keep me searching for a heart of gold. And I'm getting old. searching for a heart of gold, and I'm getting old. Keeps me searching for a heart of gold, and I'm getting old.
That's Fiona Apple's version of Heart of Gold. We're at just about 8 minutes before 7 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. I'm Faith Fundal in for Marcy Marcusa. Well, now comes the hard part for Mark Carney. Can he deliver on his campaign promises? Moshe Lander is senior lecturer in the Department of Economics at Concordia University. Moshe, I'm sure you have a more fancy title, but that's what I said. Welcome back.
That's good enough to me. It's great to see you, Faith.
Moshe, Mark Carney has a whole bunch of challenges to deal with. He has his work cut out for him. What does he have to do first?
First thing is he's got to deal with Trump and everything that entails. The tariffs have to go away. The menacing talk has to go away. The 51st state, governor of the state of Canada. Canada would be better inside the U.S. than outside. It's got to stop. Businesses and consumers cannot function in an uncertain environment. There's always uncertainty in our day-to-day lives, but you don't need the White House creating the majority of it. And so he needs to meet him. Good news was that yesterday they had a phone conversation. There's plans for talks face-to-face in the foreseeable future. And of course, the G7 meeting is going to be in Kananaskis, so they're probably going to have talks off on the side there as well. Hopefully he can make this stuff go away. And then beyond that, he's just got the day-to-day stuff, inflation, unemployment, sagging economy, productivity that's flat to falling, cost of living affordability issues. But other than that, he's free to go and enjoy his free time.
When available, I guess.
Of course.
The Trump's tariffs, we talk about this over and over and over. Is it clear yet to us what they will mean in the short term, in this moment that we're talking right now?
Well, what we're seeing is the Canadian economy is stagnated. So I don't know if we have a recession or not. That's a technical definition anyway. But what we're seeing is that Canada is not reaching the growth level that's needed to make cost of living and affordability issues go away. Unfortunately, governments will not be able to spend their way out of it. You've got to boost productivity. I've spoken to Marcy on this show. I've spoken to you on your show that Canada's productivity problem is something that's been going on for 40 years. It's not a Justin Trudeau thing. It's a federal government thing of both parties. Going back to Brian Mulroney's time. So you need to get Canada's growth rate up to about 2.5% to even make the conversation about cost of living and affordability go away. And it would still take a generation. So, the immediate impact is that a flat and stagnating economy is just going to make all of those issues that were secondary to the Trump talk in the election present and paralyzing.
Mark Carney has continued to talk about how he's a former central banker and a first-time politician. What we also know is that he has a minority liberal government. How is he going to be able to use his experience and push things through if he may not necessarily have the full support of the House?
This is the worst case scenario, I think, to have a minority where you're 3 short. You'd almost rather be 30 short because at least you know that you have to get an entire party on board. At this point, to get 3 means that each one of those 3 knows that they have huge leverage in being able to negotiate for whatever goodies that they want. I think that my concern has always been that Mark Carney, the central banker, is different than Mark Carney, the politician. And I'm not sure that Canadians were distinguishing between those two during the election campaign. I think maybe the expectations on him are going to be unbearably high, and it's going to be difficult for him to deliver. Mark Carney, the central banker, knows that a carbon tax is a good thing. Mark Carney, the politician, scraps it on his first day in office. Mark Carney, the central banker, knows that free trade unconditionally is a good thing. Mark Carney, the politician, is probably going to have to make some trade-offs, like protecting supply management, which in fact is a hindrance to trade. So I think that he's going to have a bit of a difficult time trying to steer through the proper economic agenda. But the good news is that his business background will hopefully mean that he's able to negotiate and bring all parties on board, like he did with meeting with the premiers early on in his short premiership, and get them at least to agree to some basics for Team Canada's sake.
I haven't had a chance to look at the full data here, but I know GDP numbers came out today or were available today. Whenever you have uncertainty, and you know this, the business community kind of freak out. Because when you don't have certainty, it's hard to make plans. How do you think the Canadian businesses are managing, given that uncertainty in the Liberal minority government?
Well, the minority government itself is going to be difficult for Canadian business because you're not going to have clarity then. And so all of the campaign promises probably go out the window at this point because we saw radically different versions of what Canada needs from the NDP and from the Conservatives. I would almost suggest that in the name of Canadian unity, almost like a unity cabinet would be a good move right now, especially with the Conservatives potentially leaderless. The NDP for sure is leaderless. It's a trade war. And while it's not a war with guns and with soldiers, it is a war. And so in times of war, we have seen that Canadians have formed a unity government. That might not be the worst thing to happen right now, and cherry pick everybody's ideas. And as long as nobody gets obsessed with who takes the credit for what, doing the right thing might actually be something that everybody could get on board with. I don't think that the Conservative view of what the economy needs would be radically different from what the Liberals might want. And so there could be some trade-offs there that they could find common cause with.
Moshe, we can have a full conversation about this next thing I'm going to ask you, but we have about 40 seconds or so left. Interprovincial trade seems to be a clear issue from premiers. How does Mark Carney make that happen?
On the campaign trail, he said it was going to be gone by Canada Day. So if he can deliver that, that's a great success. We've seen that Ontario started to move. The federal government during his premiership did start to move. If the other provinces don't try and hold out for some sort of better deal, it is something that is doable and everybody recognizes it should be removed. So here's hoping that the next couple of months we'll see movement towards a truly integrated Canadian economy.
A true economist who is also good at talking to time. Thank you, Moshe.
Anytime.
Moshe Lander is a senior lecturer in the Department of Economics at Concordia University. We reached him in Montreal. We're at 2 minutes before 7 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. Matt Humphrey joining us now from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. Good morning.
Good morning. More than 300 people packed into the Philippine Canadian Centre of Manitoba last night, there to honor the 11 people killed and dozens injured during the attack on the Lapu-Lapu Day Festival in Vancouver last weekend. Winnipeg is home to the largest per capita Filipino population in Canada. Organizers of last night's event say the hurt caused by the Vancouver attack is deeply felt here. We'll hear more at 7:30.
All right, thanks very much.
Back soon.
Matt Humphrey from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. So what are you going to wear today? It's wet outside. But good news, we're expecting a temperature high of 18 degrees and we'll see a mix of sun and cloud. We'll give you a full forecast coming up in our next hour of the program. We'll also speak with a Winnipeg woman behind the Jets whiteout merch. Stay tuned for that conversation here on Information Radio on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Listen app, on our CBC Manitoba YouTube page as well. Goodbye to the folks watching on CBC Television. I'm here with Abby Adeyemi, Corey Funk, and Brad Lillies making us look and sound good. Lots to come after World Report. Stay tuned.
Today on The Current.
We had no income tax. We only had tariffs. I consider that to be the most beautiful word in the dictionary.
Canada has now picked what government will lead tariff negotiations with Donald Trump, but other countries are facing the same threats and trying to figure out the way forward. We will hear from people around the world about how they are dealing with tariffs. That's coming up on The Current.
The Current with Matt Galloway. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Prime Minister Mark Carney is turning his focus to the trade war with U.S. President Donald Trump. Carney promised Canadians he would build a stronger economy, one that is less reliant on the United States. But already, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith is asking if that can be done with a minority government.
You saw that the Bloc Québécois' first move as to say they'd partner with Mark Carney as long as he didn't build pipelines. And so that may result in some kind of stability to put a part of his agenda through, but it's not good for the country.
Carney spoke with Trump on the phone yesterday, and the two are expected to meet in person soon. Alexander Silberman has more on the Prime Minister's next moves.
Bonjour, Monsieur Carney. Mark Carney arriving at his Ottawa office after a long night and little sleep. The Liberals now expected to form a minority government after securing a rare fourth mandate.
We know that our strength lies in our resolve to work together as a country.
Carney, who pitched himself as the right person to confront the U.S. president's trade war, had a phone call with Donald Trump shortly after the election result. The two leaders discussed the importance of working together and agreed to meet in person in the near future.
We have to make sure that we move fast, immediate.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford, among many political leaders reacting to the result with a call for unity.
Or if not, President Trump is going to eat our lunch.
BC Premier David Eby says the Prime Minister should work closely with premiers.
Now is the time for Canadians to come together.
Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet is offering to work with the Liberals, putting aside partisan differences during trade negotiations.
If Canada wants to be strong, it also needs us.
The Liberals will need support of at least a small number of opposition members to pass legislation, now facing the challenge of confronting Trump without the majority they hoped for. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Ottawa.
Elizabeth May wants to play a key role in the new minority parliament. The Green Party co-leader is the only member of her party who is returning to Ottawa. And as Olivia Stefanovich reports, May is already setting her priorities.
So I would never have done the kind of deal that Jagmeet Singh did with Justin Trudeau, which ignored fair voting and ignored climate.
Elizabeth May making her values clear. The Green Party co-leader says she's willing to negotiate and possibly even make a deal with the new Liberal minority government. That is, if it's willing to work with her. And finally bring in electoral reform.
First past the post drives people to fear-based voting and rewards mindless hyperpartisanship.
Dismantling first past the post, a 2015 federal election promise broken by former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Now with a minority government, a potential condition of support by the Greens.
It came up at doors all the time in the last number of months.
Mike Morris, May's former caucus colleague, who was defeated by the Conservatives in the Ontario riding of Kitchener Centre. He says it's too early to say if he'll ever run again, but he does want May to keep pushing for changes to the voting system.
We can do better, and that should start with hearing from experts on the best path forward.
May also says she wants to end the 12 MP requirement for official party status, something she says she plans to work on with the new Speaker of the House of Commons, unless she decides to run for that job herself. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Sydney, BC.
Pakistan is claiming India is ready to attack. The country's information minister says Islamabad has credible intelligence suggesting India could carry out military strikes in the coming days. New Delhi has neither confirmed nor denied this claim, but Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is holding a series of security meetings today. These heightened tensions come as India accuses Pakistan of being involved in an attack in Indian-administered Kashmir last week. Neha Punya has more.
1 week since gunmen killed 26 tourists in Pahalgam in Indian-administered Kashmir, Indian leaders are in a huddle. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has reportedly told his defence minister and the heads of the Navy, Army and Air Force they have, quote, complete operational freedom to decide on the mode, targets and timing of India's response. Professor Bidadana Chengappa is a defence analyst.
The Pahalgam killings have certainly whipped up jingoistic nationalism. A shooting war is something that may occur in terms of limited war.
Pakistan's Information Minister Attaullah Tarar has warned that Islamabad will respond if New Delhi carries out strikes.
The onus of escalatory spiral and its ensuing consequences shall squarely lie with India.
But as leaders spar, it's people on both sides of the border who are bearing the brunt of escalating tensions. India and Pakistan have expelled each other's citizens, with a land border between the two countries set to close today. Praveena is a Pakistani national and says she is now stateless.
I have been living in India for the last 41 years. I have nowhere to go. I'm helpless.
India and Pakistan have a long, bitter history. The two nuclear-armed neighbours have fought 3 wars and have long sparred over Kashmir, a region they both govern in parts but claim in full. But this is the lowest ties have been in several decades. Neha Punya for CBC News, New Delhi.
The United States is throwing its support behind Israel at the International Court of Justice. The ICJ is holding hearings this week on Israel's obligations to allow humanitarian aid into Gaza. Israel banned UNRWA from Gaza. Israel has accused the UN aid agency of having ties to Hamas. Josh Simmons is with the U.S. State Department legal team.
Here, there are serious concerns about UNRWA's impartiality, including information that Hamas has used UNRWA facilities and that UNRWA staff participated in the October 7th terrorist attack against Israel. Israel, therefore, has ample grounds to question UNRWA's impartiality.
Simmons argues that Israel does not have any legal obligation to cooperate with UNRWA, especially given the country's security concerns. Israel is being accused of violating international law by barring the aid organization from the Gaza Strip. The United Kingdom is joining the United States bombing campaign against the Houthi group in Yemen. Last night, British and American fighter jets launched airstrikes against the Houthis. It is the first time the UK has done so since Donald Trump took office. The target was a cluster of buildings just south of Yemen's capital. The UK says the Houthis used those buildings to manufacture the drones used to target ships in the Red Sea. There is some relief in sight for North American auto sector industries. The car makers have been hit hard with 25% tariffs of auto imports into the U.S. But now President Donald Trump is offering companies a slight reprieve. Trump signed a pair of executive orders yesterday aimed at easing the impact of current and future tariffs on the industry. The CBC's Nisha Patel reports.
A lot of auto jobs coming. Watch what's happening.
U.S. President Donald Trump assuring supporters his trade war will push automakers to revive American manufacturing.
They all want to come back to Michigan and build cars again. You know.
Still, he softened his position. Automakers will no longer face stacked tariffs for steel and aluminum. They'll also get a credit for assembling vehicles in the U.S.
The U.S. administration is driving the U.S. economy and the auto industry off a cliff. All that they've done today is slow the speed.
Brian Kingston speaks for Canadian vehicle manufacturers. He says even with the changes, tariffs will boost costs and slow production.
So I remain quite worried. We have to get back to an environment where we have duty-free trade across North America.
The White House says the relief should give companies 2 years to rework their supply chains. But shifting factories to the U.S. would take longer and cost billions of dollars. Industry analyst Sam Fiorani says automakers may be wise to hold off.
If they can wade through the next 3 to 4 years, there'll be a new president and potentially a new free trade agreement for the North American continent.
U.S. tariffs on foreign-made car parts will still take effect May 3rd, though there is an exemption for parts that comply with North American free trade rules. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
King Frederick of Denmark is visiting Greenland this week. It is part of Denmark, but U.S. President Donald Trump says he wants to annex the semi-autonomous territory. King Frederick told reporters he is not on a mission during this visit, but he was greeted on the tarmac by some flag-waving supporters, and they say this is an important time to show Denmark and Greenland stand together. That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Magandang umaga, good morning Manitoba. Faith Fundal here, in for Marcy Marcusa. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. When the Vietnam War ended 50 years ago today, Vietnamese refugees risked their lives on boats to flee. One of the most ambitious refugee resettlement efforts in Canada's history. We'll speak with one of them who fled coming up here in this hour of the program. Also coming up, the Debaters host Steve Patterson is in studio to talk about his plethora of dad jokes he has in store for his stand-up at the Winnipeg Comedy Festival tonight. We'll hear from him as he chooses his favorite puns submitted by listeners. First, though, a conversation with a Winnipeg woman behind the Jets whiteout merch. It's coming up next here on Information Radio on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, everywhere on the CBC Listen app and on our CBC Manitoba YouTube page. Stay tuned. First, though, joining us in studio from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk, Matt Humphrey. Good morning.
Good morning. Hundreds packed the Philippine-Canadian Centre of Manitoba last night for a ceremony honoring the victims of Vancouver's tragic attack. 11 people died. Dozens were injured after an SUV rammed into a street festival crowd. Several ceremonies were held across the country last night. We'll hear from the one in Winnipeg at the bottom of the hour. And Brandon's police chief says frontline workers are facing more violence tied to drug use. Police were on scene early Monday at Brandon's hospital to arrest a man who tried to stab an emergency room nurse with a needle. Latest details at the bottom of the hour at 7:30.
All right, thanks very much.
Back soon.
Matt Humphrey from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. Brad Lillies is making us all look and sound good on our streaming page. Abby Adiemi is the person I'm secretly blaming for the wet stuff.
No, but we're seeing the sevens already. It's warming up.
It'll go away.
It will definitely go away. In the southern regions at this point, the weather is mild with some rain here and there, breezy conditions, but the north is kind of cooler with that wind chill in Churchill. Right now, Winnipeg, 7 degrees, a little soggy outside. Light rain falling still in some part of the city and even outside. So you might want to bring that umbrella. Don't forget it if you're heading out. And then as we head into the day, the rain is going to be tapering off. We'll see a little mix of sunshine and clouds. There's still that small chance of showers in the afternoon. So if you're going on your lunch break, you might get wet. So put that into consideration. Things will warm up nicely as we get closer into mid-afternoon period. We'll see temperatures warming up to 18 degrees. So that might just feel like spring is peeking around the corner in full effect for us. I think that's what it looks like. But right now, Winnipeg, we are at 7, and that's what we're seeing in most of the southern regions from Brandon all the way down close to Dauphin. We're seeing temperatures around 7 degrees at this time.
All right, sounds good. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Abby Adiemi. We're going to talk about who needs to step up as we play against St. Louis. Stay tuned for that. Scott Rieger will join us to talk more about that. Since I'm in a blamey mood, we're going to blame... it sounds so bad. Corey Funk,
I'll take the blame for...
It's your fault for all the closures today, right?
That is right. Yeah, I'm why the Jets lost. You can all direct your angry emails to me. It's faith.fundal@cbc.ca.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. Just heads up here. Yeah, because of the Whiteout Party, obviously there is going to be some street closures today. Donald Street between Portage Avenue and St. Mary Avenue. It starts today at 9 a.m., that street closure, and goes until 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. And then also Graham Avenue, east and westbound between Hargrave and Smith Street is going to be closed starting today as well at 9 until 7 a.m. tomorrow. Another reminder that today, southbound Keewatin, right around Logan, is going to be closed as well for an entire month until May 30th for sewer work. So if your commute does involve southbound Keewatin around there, you want to find another way to get where you need to go. If you see anything else going on out there, though, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. I'll let folks know what you're seeing out there. That number, 204-788-3093.
Coming up to 15 minutes after 7 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1 and our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream. In true Winnipeg Jets fashion, tonight's game against the Blues will likely be a sea of white. And ahead of tonight's game, we wanted to check in with the company behind the iconic merch. Did you know that a great deal of the whiteout merch is printed right here in Manitoba as fans proudly wave those white towels? Dreamcatcher Promotions is the largest Indigenous-owned promotional company in Canada, serving companies all over the country, including the Winnipeg Jets. And founder and CEO Michelle Cameron is a member of Peguis First Nation. She says it's a partnership that is a dream come true. Michelle joins us by Zoom now. Good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. What about you? What does that feel like when you see all of your merch, people throwing those towels around? I mean, what is that like for you?
It's almost surreal when I went to the first game to see it, because it was I cried. I literally cried happy tears. I couldn't stop crying every time people it would go across the screen, wave your towels, because it was all of our fruits of our labor was coming true. And it was more than just the towels. It was literally a dream come true. A small Indigenous company would never have had that opportunity before, but here we are, and all of our towels, all of our merch are flooding the arena. So it was really exciting and a really proud moment for me.
I'm not a business person. How does that even work? How do you come up with a partnership between a team like the Winnipeg Jets and your company?
Well, I believe in relationships. So Mark Shipman and I had met a couple years ago. We were both speaking at an event, and I approached him after and talked about if there was any opportunities for our company to work with the Winnipeg Jets. And it started with a meeting after that and a coffee and just building relationships. And prior to the Whiteout Jets, we do some printing for them. So it was just the next step in our relationship. So it was pretty exciting. So we had talked about it last year, and they had already had a plan for last year. And then so I tried to pitch our company for this year. So it happened. So I couldn't be prouder.
And a big relationship both in you and Mark Chipman and the team in terms of that relationship, but also big in terms of numbers, because how many thousands of towels are we talking about here?
The first order was 90,000, so those have come and gone already, and working on the next set of towels for them to see how the rest of the playoffs works out. So
that's a lot of towels, and also apparel too, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So we do print the T-shirts, the hoodies, the crew necks, the hats, all of the stuff that goes into the Jet stores.
I mean, I know you've said that this is an important opportunity, but how important is it? Why would you say, or what do you say to why this is so important?
For me, as an Indigenous person, these opportunities don't come very often, and when they do, you don't see a lot of successful Indigenous companies on a large scale. So for us to have this opportunity and have CBC, and just to show that these things are real and these happen, and it's inspiring other Indigenous entrepreneurs. I'll give you a quick story. My team is at a conference, and there was an elder. She made little white earrings, and she said to my daughter, she says, "Did you hear that an Indigenous woman got the contract for the Jets?" She says, "I want to be like her one day." And so she made little white earrings, but it inspired her to pursue her dream. So it's more than just me. It's more than just my company, but it's really changing the path for Indigenous entrepreneurs, and to believe that they can accomplish something that we've done.
Michelle, this is a big deal for you, isn't it? And you care a lot about it.
Absolutely. I'm very passionate about it.
How do you manage that? Because I know it's both excitement, but also, I mean, what other words would you use to describe in terms of feelings about where you are right now?
Gavin came the other day, and all I could say was there was so much pride in all of this that goes. And pride, happiness, excitement, those are all feelings. But also, too, I'm a Jets fan, and every game has turned into more than just a game. It's an opportunity for us to keep going. And not just my business, but it's an opportunity for all the businesses in Winnipeg that get to benefit from this. And it's as a city that we're going to benefit the longevity of the playoffs, right? So it's opportunities for small businesses, not just mine, but like the hot dog carts and the little restaurants downtown. And like, we're all going to see this and feel it. And so it's more than just a game for some of us now. It's just every game, every goal is one closer to the playoffs, to the Stanley Cup. So
how do you get that puck into the goal when it comes to making these towels? Because I imagine you also have to deal with a bunch of challenges when people love your stuff.
Yes. Like, I did an interview on the radio for CJOB, and we had people calling the office asking to buy just stacks of towels from us because they were really proud that the Jets, and they're happy to know that they supported a local Winnipeg company.
Did you have to say no because you ran out?
We did. Well, it's not our towel to sell. It's for the Jets. So we had to tell them we had to contact the Jets, and they're like, well, we want to support your company. Well, you going to a game and going to a whiteout is supporting our company, because the more games that they have, the more towels they order from us. So
the big thing here is the Jets need to step it up, I think, is how one pundit described it. You're stepping up by providing the whiteout merch. What's your sense of how folks can step up to encourage the Jets that they have people behind them?
Absolutely. So tonight's game, we have to be loud and proud. We have to show them their support. We can't, and as discouraging as a couple games were, we still have to, we are Winnipeg Jets fans. We don't give up until the last goal. And so we just have to stand behind them, show our support, and we want the cup. It's probably as bad as they do. So they just have to show it on the ice, play how they've been playing all season. They played great all season. They just had to keep that momentum going.
Michelle, thank you so much for making time today. Before you go, give us your best Jets, I guess, cry, scream, shout. I don't know. How would you describe it?
There's people sleeping in the house, so I don't want to say it too loud. But go Jets, go is all I can say.
Michelle, thank you for making this space, and congratulations.
Thanks very much. Have a good day.
You as well. Michelle Cameron is the founder and CEO of Dreamcatcher Promotions.
I've never had original thoughts, but you make it feel like I'm the first one to touch, first hand to steal. You never stick around too long, leave me on my knees. You're begging me on the phone to fly out to me. And you're so proud of me, but I don't know why. Something in the way, skin to skin can taste. Feels like we've discovered a new thing. You tell me what you need, let me cut my teeth. Nothing's ever been such a good thing, and it's alright. We explore it all the time. I've never had original thoughts, but you're breaking through. Never heard a word from God, must speak through you. Silly thinking how I lived and breathed before meeting. You came in and knocked me off my feet. Now I see how I had conditional thoughts. I needed you in the car park. You showed me the senses that I thought I lost. I could explain, I could go over. You'd rather see visual learner. Something in the way, skin to skin can taste. Feels like we've discovered a new thing. You tell me what you need, let me cut my teeth. Nothing's ever been such a good thing, and it's alright. We explore it all the time, and it's alright. We explore it all the time.
That's Katie Tupper with a tune called Original Thoughts. We're at 25 minutes after 7 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. And Scott Reguer from your CBC National Sports Desk. I don't have any original thoughts because I keep saying, step up, come on.
110%, guys?
110%.
Is that what you're saying, Faith?
110%. Is
It
there
would
even
be
120?
appreciated.
Is there 125%? Does that work?
If so, we haven't seen it quite yet from the Jets, but there's time.
And we
right?
have home ice advantage, and that's going to make a big difference, won't it?
Well, you fight like heck all regular season long to win the President's Trophy and the home ice advantage that comes with it throughout the postseason. These are the games where that counts, right? You're right. They do have home ice advantage as they face St. Louis at home tonight. Things are tied up at 2 as things stand. The Jets' Faith have a shiny new addition to help them try and get back on top in this series. After being out for more than a month with an upper body injury, Gabe Vilardi will be in Winnipeg's lineup tonight. Coach Scott Arniel, pretty excited about that.
It's green light now, so there's no holding back. This is playoff hockey. There's no weeding his way in. First couple of shifts, he's going to have to get up to speed. It's going to be a heck of a lot faster now than it was when he left us, but I get all the confidence as I watch him. Obviously, on the ice there, just helps balance us back out a bit here, and that's what's important. I mean, anytime you get a top 6 forward back in your lineup, it's a big boost, and so, we need him to do what he does best.
Yeah, and when he's healthy, Vilardi, Faith does a lot of things well. During the regular season, he was a near point-a-game player who's also solid defensively as well. Given how the Jets played in St. Louis the last couple of games, Vilardi is a welcome addition. Puck drop tonight for Game 5 is at 8:30.
And I hope that his upper body injury is no longer an upper body injury.
Yeah, let's hope.
Yeah, pretty mixed fortunes as well for Canadian NHL teams, right?
Last night, and mostly positive fortunes, unless you're a Leafs fan. Toronto.
Don't troll me now.
Toronto losing 4-0 at home against Ottawa last night, Faith, and in a game where the Leafs had a chance to eliminate the Senators. If you know about the Leafs' playoff past, and I know you do, this is troubling stuff. With their core 4 stars of Austin Matthews, William Nylander, Mitch Marner, and John Tavares, the Leafs never or almost never win the big one. With those guys in place, Toronto is now 1-13 in potential series clinching games. Ouch. So they go to Ottawa tomorrow night where the Senators can tie things up, improbably enough, after trailing 3-0 in this series. Then you have the Edmonton Oilers, who are back in front in their series with the LA Kings after beating them 3-1 last night. I love the story of Calvin Pickard. This is a guy who's been a career backup. He's 33 years old now, but because of Stuart Skinner, the regular goalie's less than average play. Pickard's been brought in. He stopped 20 of 21 shots last night to help Edmonton get that important win. And Pickard was asked by reporters what it's like going from backup to starter.
You asked me the same question last year, I feel like, but no, but no, I mean, I played a decent amount this year. It feels good. Obviously, getting your name called upon early, and I just want to go out and do my job. I've been saying it all year, and playing behind our team, it's a blessing for me, and I just want to keep continuing to do what I can do and help the team win.
There's Calvin Pickard, who grew up in Winnipeg, and he is going to probably be in net going forward the way he's played compared to Stu Skinner. So Edmonton can eliminate the LA Kings tomorrow night back in the Alberta capital.
Just got to go 110%, which...
Just got to go 110% or 125, which, according to you.
Yeah, it seems like the Blue Bombers also are going 110% with the CFL draft making a splash.
Yeah, for sure. They went heavy on linebacker yesterday with the 6th overall pick, Faith. They took Connor Shea, 6'2" and 230 pounds, out of the University of Wyoming. Kyle Walters, the general manager, called him the best defensive player available in the draft, so that's encouraging, as is their pick at number 18, where they selected Taylor Elgersma. This is the guy that won the Heck Creighton Trophy as the top player in all of youth sports, a big quarterback, and we'll have to keep an eye on him. He's going to the Green Bay Packers mini camp, so he won't be coming right away to the Bombers, but a great prospect for the future.
Scott, before you go, come on, give me your best Go Jets go.
Let's see.
Come on.
Go Jets, go! 8:30 puck drop tonight. Let's go, guys. Gabe Vilardi, lead the way.
Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome.
Scott Regier from your CBC National Sports Desk. Your CBC Winnipeg News is next.
This is CBC News. At 7:30, we're at 7 degrees with light rain at times over downtown Winnipeg. Good morning. I'm Matt Humphrey. A procession of people knelt in prayer last night while a mournful violin echoed through the Canadian-Philippine Centre of Manitoba. It was one of several vigils across the country this week in the wake of the tragedy in Vancouver. 11 people were killed and dozens more were hurt after an SUV plowed through a Philippine street festival Saturday night. Ivo Pagyo says he felt broken when he heard the news, and he wanted to show his support for everyone who lost someone.
They're part of my community, a Filipino community, and some are different community, but everyone here in Winnipeg, we're multicultural, and I feel like I'm one of them, and I like to give my regard to them that be strong.
Leaders from several faiths spoke at last night's vigil in Winnipeg. Upwards of 300 people attended. Fire crews in Winkler battled flames and smoke for hours yesterday afternoon at a hotel on Main Street. Emergency crews rushed to the Quality Inn and Suites when fire was spotted on the roof. The hotel says all guests, staff, and pets inside the building got out safely. No one was hurt. The Quality Inn and Suites will remain closed while the investigation into the fire is ongoing. Guests with existing reservations will be contacted directly, we're told. Brandon's police chief says frontline workers are facing more violence tied to drug use. Police were on scene early Monday morning at Brandon's hospital to arrest a man who choked and tried to stab an emergency room nurse with a needle. Chief Tyler Bates says the suspect is believed to have been on methamphetamines. The suspect also has a prior conviction of assault on a police officer.
It's certainly somebody that, is a risk to service care providers. And, this could have had very serious consequences in terms of the injury to the victim.
The suspect in Monday's attack faces multiple charges, including assault with a weapon. He's been released on bail and is scheduled to be back in court in May. Prime Minister Mark Carney is turning his focus to the trade war with U.S. President Donald Trump. Carney promised Canadians he would build a stronger economy, one that's less reliant on the United States. But already, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith is asking if that can be done with a minority government.
You saw that the Bloc Québécois' first move is to say they'd partner with Mark Carney as long as he didn't build pipelines. And so that may result in some kind of stability to put a part of his agenda through, but it's not good for the country.
Carney spoke with Trump on the phone yesterday, and the two are expected to meet in person soon. The Vietnam War ended 50 years ago today, and its aftershocks can still be felt around the world, including here in Winnipeg, where those who fled as children have built new lives. Stephanie Stobie was 4 when her family escaped Laos in a canoe. They paddled the Mekong River, avoiding rocks, whirlpools, and more.
And there were soldiers on both sides of the river. We had the Laos soldiers who were told to shoot anyone trying to escape the country. And then you had the Thai soldiers who were told to shoot anyone trying to enter Thailand.
The end of the Vietnam War came on April 30th, 1975, when the South Vietnamese capital of Saigon fell to Northern Communist forces. In the following chaos, close to 1 million people fled Vietnam and the neighboring countries of Cambodia and Laos. And finally, as you've been hearing, a Winnipeg business owner is proud her company is printing whiteout apparel for the Winnipeg Jets. Michelle Cameron and the team at Dreamcatcher Promotions are pumping out thousands of towels and other pieces of merchandise. Cameron says there's added honor as an Indigenous-owned local business working with the hometown team.
It's pretty meaningful, and we're pretty proud. So, that's why we want to knock it out of the park, because we don't get opportunities like this, and for the Jets to give us this chance, it was like we wanted to do a really good job.
And like the fans, Cameron hopes the Jets keep winning, starting with Game 5 tonight at Canada Life Centre. As you just heard, puck drop is set for 8:30 tonight. And that's your CBC News from Winnipeg.
Matt, I think I'm asking people now for their best Go Jets Go.
I can't do better than
cheer.
Scott.
Come on.
I mean, go Jets, go!
Perfect.
Glad
Thank
I can
you.
hear everyone laugh. That's good.
We were cheering you on.
All right. Back soon.
Laughing with you. Matt Humphrey from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. Magandang umaga. Good morning, Manitoba. Faith Fundal here in for Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio on CBC Radio 1, on the radio, on the app, and of course, hello to the folks watching us on our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream. Brad Lillies is making us all look good and sound good as well. Someone who you will eventually like, if you don't already like, Abby Adeyemi with the forecast, because that wet stuff from earlier, it's going to go away.
Yeah,
right?
it's already tapering off, though we still have that some rain showers in some parts of the province down south here. Cooler and breezy conditions up north. Winnipeg and the Red River Valley region, we're looking at temperatures. We started at 5 degrees with light rain, and now we are at 7. It's going to turn to a mix of sun and clouds with a small chance of rain still hanging back. Light winds will come from the south, becoming breezy as we get into the afternoon. We then warm up to 18 degrees later. In the Pembina Valley region, Maurice, Morden, Winkler, and Altona, all the way down to the U.S. border. Similar story to Winnipeg, 7 degrees at this time. Light rain this morning. That should clear by the noon period. It will leave behind mostly cloudy skies and a slim chance of more showers to come off and on as you get through the day. Light winds from the south, highs also around 18 degrees. Now we head west to Brandon, where we see temperatures around 6 degrees at this time. Mostly cloudy conditions we get. That should clear by your lunch break. Temperatures will warm up to 19 with light south winds. In the Parkland region, Dauphin is currently sitting at 6 degrees. Also, partly cloudy skies. Some fog patches still being spotted here and there in the Interlake region. That should clear. Then we'll see a mix of sun and clouds. The day will warm up to 19, just like Brandon, with light winds coming from the southeast. In the Interlake region, Gimli sitting at 4 degrees right now, still having light rain. That should taper off this morning. Then we see a mix of sun and clouds that will develop. Light winds will stay from the south, warming up to 14 degrees. We take our trip up north in the powerful influence surrounding areas. We're looking at mainly sunny conditions at this time. 4 degrees. The high will get to 11. Light winds will be coming from the northwest. Further north, Thompson, we're seeing temperatures around 0. And Faith, we do have snow grains in Thompson at this time, though the high will get to 6 degrees and with some light winds also coming from the northwest. Churchill is sitting at -8. Mostly cloudy skies. We do have winds light from the southwest becoming breezy. That would shift to the north. We'll see highs around -12 for Churchill. However, the wind chill this morning is still stuck between -23 and -25. So it's still pretty cold up there. Across board, Winnipeg and the southern regions will see mild conditions with some rain here and there, and then up north it's more like cold.
Yeah, still cold.
Still cold.
But don't worry, we'll get there.
We'll get there.
Get there. Thanks very much, Abby Adeyemi.
Thank you.
Our technician here, Corey Funk.
I have
also
to say,
here. Yes.
I'm really enjoying you making everyone say "Go Jets, go" this early in the morning. It's a special kind of cruelty to getting people to muster up their best "Go Jets, go" at 7:30.
If you're just waking up, no, it is not the afternoon show. I'm sitting in for Marcy. This is Information Radio at about 39 minutes after 7 o'clock.
But you're bringing that afternoon energy, which I really appreciate.
Just a little bit. Corey Funk, it's going to be, it could be busy later.
Yes. Speaking of afternoon energy, as the things ramp up for the whiteout parties, there are going to be some street closures to keep an eye out for. They're actually starting at 9 a.m. today. So Donald Street between Portage Avenue and St. Mary is going to be closed starting today at 9 a.m. until 7 a.m. tomorrow. Same thing for eastbound, westbound Graham between Hargrave and Smith Street. So that's going to be closed starting at 9 a.m. today till 7 a.m. So you might want to avoid that if downtown is part of your commute today. Go Jets, go. And if you see anything else going on, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. I was going to get ahead of it before you asked me because I was nervous. You're going to make me muster it up. Give me a call, 204-788-3093.
You just reminded me I didn't ask Abby, but we'll get back.
We'll get there.
He'll be back. All right. Thanks very much. Corey Funk, our studio director here on the program. And we have CBC comedy royalty in studio. You may have heard this guy, Steve Patterson. Yeah, busy guy. He hosts the hit CBC show The Debaters, but he is also a dad. And tonight he's wearing both his comedian and dad hats to perform at the Winnipeg Comedy Festival. His show is called Steve Patterson is Patter Dad. He's the king of puns, and he's also here to cast judgment on some puns our listeners have submitted. Steve Patterson, good morning.
Good morning. Is this, am I on? Am I on? I'm
You're
not used
on?
to working equipment this early in the morning. Thank you for having me. This is great.
Big question.
Yeah.
Why do you call yourself Patterdad instead of Dadderson? Sounds like it rolls off your tongue much better.
Oh, interesting. That's an interesting thought. Well, I have 2 daughters, right? So the goal is to kind of get rid of Patterson. If anything, I would have called it Patter Daughters. So this is a placeholder, this show, until they can tour their own show
I
called
love that.
The Patterson Patter Daughters.
Is there even a thing as a good dad joke? I feel like we're going to go intellectual for a minute here.
Right. Of course there are. This one of the main reasons I did this show is because anytime you hear dad joke, people automatically start rolling their eyes and dad jokes are bad jokes. But they're not. They're not all bad jokes. And, some are corny, sure, but some are, it depends on the dad, I guess. And there's a lot to do in the delivery. And this whole show is about proving that not all dad jokes are bad jokes. So.
And there are a lot of funny things about fatherhood, right?
Oh, I used to just do jokes about my dad. So then I had kids, and now they'll, again, I'm just holding place for them to do a whole career about jokes about me. And then I'll realize why my dad was so angry that I would just report things on stage. And he would be like, that's not a joke. That's just life. I'm like, that's the only things people like,
Let's judge some folks here.
Beautiful.
Speaking of dads judging.
Yes, in the morning is a great time to judge people.
We have a few puns for you to judge submitted by listeners.
Yep.
So let's play the first one here.
Okay.
This is the first one from, he'll tell you his name.
Okay.
Wayne Thompson calling. How can you tell when it's a dad joke? It's apparent.
Thoughts? I mean, I laughed.
Yeah, you did, right?
My eyes didn't roll.
Yours didn't roll. Mine rolled a little bit. It's a good opener. It's factually correct.
Okay, so the half thumbs up.
Oh yeah, no, I'll give it a 1 thumbs up. I don't know what our rating system is yet, but that one gets a thumbs
one
up.
Thumb.
I'm going to hitchhike to the next one.
Okay, so that's from Wayne Thompson.
Okay.
Here's another one.
Oh hi, it's Alan Pitch. What kind of concert only costs 45 cents? Why a 50-cent concert featuring Nickelback?
Okay, anytime you bring Nickelback into a joke, I feel like there's value in that.
I do like that a lot. I mean, I have not heard anything like that. That's original. It's factually correct, and yeah, I like that one a lot.
So Alan Pitch, there you go. You get 1.5 thumbs up.
Easy, yeah.
From Steve Patterson.
Yes.
I want to read some. Hopefully, I'll deliver this well.
Okay.
This is from Jen Rodriguez. What do you call a hen looking at lettuce? Chicken sees her salad.
Oh
Chicken Caesar salad.
So here's the thing.
It's the delivery.
I know. And whenever you have to repeat them, because there's just blank stares at first, you got to work a little bit harder. But thanks, Jen. Chicken Caesar salad. You got to write that one out, the whole sentence.
That's a delivery issue, so that's a host problem.
No,
that's me.
Yeah.
Okay, one from Lindsay.
Okay.
What did the buffalo say at school drop-off?
I don't know.
Bison.
Oh, like bison. Okay, yeah, that's a delivery.
Bison.
Bison, yes.
Okay.
Bison.
So that's from Lindsay. What about from Mark Jeffkins? The days of the digital watch are numbered.
Oh, God, it's a thinker, right? It's too early. It's too early in the morning for that. That's not Mark's fault.
Okay, so not a 7:44 a.m. kind of thing.
Well, it technically is.
I mean, it is right now. Frank Deere.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to go ice fishing on Lake Winnipeg, but all I caught was a cold, a real catch, minus 22.
Oh, a catch, minus 22.
One more.
That's a thinker.
Eve Dutton. Mm-hmm. What do they say at the Quebec rodeo?
I don't know.
Wee-haw. Should I do it with a French accent? Wee-haw. I see, it says the same thing.
Wee-haw.
Wee-haw. Wee-haw.
It's pretty good, too.
Natalie Marion. Did you hear about the mathematician who's afraid of negative numbers? He'll stop at nothing to avoid them.
Ooh, now that's a thinker. That's a thinker. Yeah.
Is that that's like a 10 a.m. one?
I like. It depends what time you tell it, but that's a good one. I like that one.
Okay, one more. Since my delivery, I don't think you'll give me a job, but okay. Who do you think should win the Winnipeg Comedy Festival prize pack? It's not a joke. I'm asking.
I'm like, how is this a dad joke?
It's not a dad joke. Because, people at least need a chance to win because I did not deliver their jokes as
I see.
best.
I see. So I'm supposed to pick one of those. Is that what's happening?
Okay, so we could either do the chicken Caesar salad by Jen. We can do Bison or Bison from Lindsay. The Days of the Digital Watch Are Numbered by Mark. Frank talking about a real catch, -22. Catching a cold, going ice fishing. Eve Dutton talking about the Quebec rodeo, what people say, weehaw. Or the mathematician who is afraid of negative numbers, who is stopping at nothing to avoid them.
Now, what about the gentleman that delivered the Nickelback?
Oh, right. Yes, we also have Alan Pitch, who
Yeah.
talked about Nickelback, and Wayne Thompson.
You know what? My personal favorite of all those, and there was a lot of good ones, but my personal favorite was the Nickelback one.
Oh.
It was there was value in that. It's good. There's good Canadiana in there, so that would be my pick if I'm the one that gets to pick.
You get to pick.
Okay, that's the one. But thank you everybody for submitting.
Alan Pitch, congratulations. We'll get in touch with you on how you win. But you too can win if you show up to the show tonight. Steve Patterson, talk about your show tonight.
Well, I'm going to be entertaining the 6 people in Winnipeg that aren't going to watching the Jets game simultaneously with my show. So, no, I think it's at the Gas Station Theatre, which is one of my favorite places to play. This show was kind of born at the Winnipeg Festival a couple years ago when I did a little gala hosting and started to talk about the girls. And then I turned it into an hour-and-a-half show. So now it's a full show, and it's been all over Canada, and I just wanted a chance to do it in Winnipeg. And they said, when would you like to do it? And I said, if possible, could we do it during the playoffs, during a pivotal game of the playoffs in Winnipeg? So it's just me staring at the technical director. And they said, we can do that, Steve.
We love it, Steve. Hey, there are a lot of, and this is going to be very, very salty here.
Oh, salty.
There are a lot of bandwagon joiners
Okay.
who may not have paid for tickets, but will celebrate later. So you will have a lot of folks there.
Oh, that's great. You know, and I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that. You know, I love the Jets and I wish them the best. And we have the comedy festival all week, so we're kind of competing a little bit against the Jets. But the crowds here always come out. It's my favorite festival to do, not just in Canada but anywhere. So I really do want to see a lot of people tonight and all week at the Winnipeg Festival shows.
Steve, your best go Jets go shouty thingy.
Shout my best go Jets go shouty thingy. All right.
Ready?
Yeah. Go Jets go!
Go Jets go!
And then repeat.
Oh right. Go Jets go! That was the instruction. See, this is why
it's tough when
comedy,
it's on paper, you know.
It's not the same.
Alan brought it home with his delivery of that Nickelback joke. Okay.
Steve, it's really nice to share space with you.
Thank you
did you
very
say
much.
break a leg to comedians too? I feel like that
they
was
used
worrisome.
to, but at the Gas Station Theatre, it's a pretty manageable stage, so you can say it.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and sincerely, go Jets, go! Let's all win tonight, everybody.
Steve Patterson, host of The Debaters. You can catch his Winnipeg Comedy Festival stand-up show tonight. It is called Steve Patterson is Patter Dad. It's tonight at the Gas Station Arts Theatre at 7:30.
Breaking news happens anywhere, anytime.
Police have warned the protesters repeatedly, get back.
CBC News brings the story to you as it happens.
Hundreds of wildfires are burning.
Be the first to know what's going on and what that means for you and for Canadians.
This situation has changed very quickly.
Helping make sense of the world when it matters most. Stay in the know. CBC News.
Eleven minutes before 8 o'clock here on CBC Radio 189.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Listen app. It's been half a century now since the end of the Vietnam War. In the aftermath, nearly 200,000 Vietnamese refugees came to Canada, and our next guest is one of them. Dr. Chow Pham arrived in Canada in 1986 after 2 years in a Thai refugee camp. Since then, she's become an emergency physician and works in the emergency department at Health Sciences Centre, also co-medical director of the department. I spoke with Dr. Pham yesterday.
In 1983, when I left Vietnam, just like all the other refugees, we were fleeing from the devastating aftermath of the Vietnam War. And even though I was only 5 years old, I was old enough to know that I was scared and I was uncertain, and especially not having my parents with me when we were fleeing. My parents sacrificed all that they had. They didn't have enough to actually buy a passage for themselves or my brother, who was only born just right before I left. But they believed that through their sacrifice, they could buy 1 bar of gold, which was my ticket on the boat for a better life on a crowded boat that was also very dangerous. The 9 days on the South China Sea are memories that I would never want my own children to ever witness or experience. I vividly remember lice that crawled on the hair of every man, woman, and child. I remember the extreme thirst and how many of us would have to drink our own urine to stay hydrated because the salty seawater would only have dehydrated us more. I remember being stopped multiple times by the Thai pirates on the sea who would brutalize and traumatize the women on our boat. And I remember one man who tried really hard to hold back his wife, and he was thrown overboard and his arm got amputated by the propeller as he was trying to protect his wife. And those are all images and experiences that no child should ever witness. And I would never want that for my own children. And then when we landed in Thailand refugee camp, unfortunately, I had contracted tuberculosis, which was extremely contagious. And the family that my parents had entrusted me with to care for me and to protect me, unfortunately, had thrown me out of their hut. It was really a time of survival of the fittest, and everybody wanted to protect their own health so that they could be free to immigrate to a first world nation. And sadly, a sick child, especially one with contagious disease, really threatens that fragile hope. But I wasn't alone for those 2 years when they threw me out. But being alone and ostracized is, at such a young age, is a very painful experience. My aunt, who was only 18 years old at the time, and she was escaping Vietnam for herself, my parents had not entrusted her with me because she was so young. But she sacrificed her chance to immigrate early. Actually, she got selected to go to the United States, and she sacrificed her chance to go to stay in the refugee camp to care for me. And her selflessness was a gift that changed my life. So for 2 years, it was her and I. And she would work at the movie shacks every night to help us survive. And there are memories that I remember in the pouring rain trying to go look for her, and there was rats everywhere, and that's the reason why I still have a phobia of rats till now. But it was a very hard time, and there are still lots of images where people could not withstand their hardship and suffering, and some people committed suicide by hanging themselves on the hut, and also those are images that no child should ever see. So I think from my early struggles, it's really given me it's perseverance and the empathy to live my life with intention. And my secret to happiness is not in what I have, but in what I can give to others. And I will always carry the memory of that child in the refugee camp, and the love and the sacrifice and the courage that brought her here every single day.
And part of that giving is also your work as an emergency physician. You work in an emergency department at HSC. What's that like for you now as you fast forward and thinking about your lived experience, who's made you who you are, and the folks around you, who they are as well. But your intentionality to do this thing, but what's that like for you?
Yeah. Before I share my experience of what I do now, I think it's also really important to know why I do what I do now. When I look back at my journey in the refugee camp as a child who was ostracized with a contagious disease, it was absolutely painful to be ostracized by other children and families at such a young age. But there was always one person who was compassionate and kind every single day. And it was the doctor in the refugee camp. I remember when the roosters would crow every morning and I would stand in line to get my medication with the other patients at the Red Cross station. It was the doctor in the refugee camp who showed me compassion and who didn't make me feel like I was any less than. And he treated me every day for 2 years until I was cleared of my tuberculosis. And I was able to immigrate to Canada with my auntie. And I will never forget that moment. And that moment has stayed with me because he gave me a second chance at life. And I realize now that a doctor's knowledge and skills doesn't just have the ability to heal the body, but they have the ability to restore dignity, to restore hope and transformed lives. And I was given a second chance at life. And so I knew very early on at a young age that I wanted to be a doctor and I wanted to serve others the way that I have been served. So I'm really proud, like you said, as an emergency physician serving Manitobans now. I work in a very busy emergency department at the Health Sciences Center in Winnipeg, servicing the core population of Winnipeg, and many of whom are vulnerable, they're houseless, and they live their daily struggles with trauma, with addiction, and with mental illness. It's a place of immense need, but even greater humanity. Emergency medicine is not easy. I chose it because I know that that's where I can make the biggest difference. And it's my second home away from home. So I was also very blessed as an emergency physician to also have led multiple medical missions through our charity, Canadians Helping Kids in Vietnam, and where we were able to improve the healthcare, the medical education, and the living conditions for those who were less fortunate than us in far-off corners of our world. Every patient that I care for, I often carry the memory of the sick child in the refugee camp and the doctor who cared for me, but who saw me more than just a walking illness. He saw the possibility that I could be something for somebody else. And I want to be now the reason for somebody else's possibility.
Dr. Chow Pham is an emergency physician at Health Sciences Center, also co-medical director of the emergency department. She came to Canada in 1986 after fleeing from Vietnam. It is the 50th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War. You can read more about this on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba, or tune into our CBC Manitoba YouTube page for a video of that interview that you just heard. Joining us in studio now from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk, Matt Humphrey. Good morning.
Good morning. It's all hands on deck for the team at Dreamcatcher Promotions, who are hard at work printing out whiteout gear for the Winnipeg Jets during the team's playoff run. The owner of the Winnipeg Company, a member of Peguis First Nation, says there's a lot of pride in the opportunity for an Indigenous-owned business to work with the hometown team during this most important stretch of the season. More news at 8:30.
All right, thanks very much.
Back soon.
Matt Humphrey from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. I'm Faith Fundal in for Marcy Marcusa. Lots to come here on the program in our next half hour. We'll hear from Andre Lewis of the Royal Winnipeg Ballet after World Report. Stay tuned.
Today on Q with Tom Power.
Andor, the latest series in the Star Wars franchise, just premiered its second season. Actor Stellan Skarsgård, who plays the rebel leader Luthen Rael, will tell you why there's not really good guys or bad guys in the series, and how half of acting is between the lines.
So what do I sacrifice? Everything!
That's coming up on Q, followed by Commotion with Elamine Abdelmahmoud on CBC Radio 1, the CBC Listen app, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
Canada has now picked what government will lead tariff negotiations with Donald Trump, but other countries are facing the same threats and trying to figure out the way forward. We will hear from people around the world about how they are dealing with tariffs. That's coming up on The Current.
This is World Report.
Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. The election is over, but the trade war with the United States is not. Prime Minister Mark Carney is supposed to meet with U.S. President Donald Trump soon. And if Mark Carney is going to live up to his campaign promises, he will need to work with partners across party lines, provincial lines too. Janice McGregor is in our parliamentary bureau. And Janice, we're still getting a picture of how this government is going to function. What do we know so far?
Marcia, if you look at the priorities that Mark Carney laid out during this campaign, the need to strengthen Canada's hand by investing in energy, transportation, trade corridors, meeting the military's needs, building housing, controlling inflation, there aren't vast differences of opinion about the importance of doing all these things urgently. So the negotiations ahead in this parliament and with the premiers are going to be about how, not what. Even Alberta's Danielle Smith, who started the day with a tough statement about fighting for her province, sounded pretty pragmatic on Power and Politics last night.
This would probably be the time right now to see all of the areas that we can find consensus on and move forward.
In-person talks with Donald Trump are coming up fast. That should focus minds. And there are essentially 8 independent votes in the next House, MPs who are elected as New Democrats or Greens. The option is always open to cut deals with them bill by bill, even if nobody wants to sit with the Liberals permanently. And look, even voting together, the Conservative and the Bloc caucuses do not have enough votes to defeat the Liberals. So yes, this is a minority, but it's a big one, and it seems durable, at least for a year or two.
And the Conservatives have their own problems to deal with. Tell us about that.
Pierre Poilievre won't be there when Parliament opens. So when the new Conservative caucus meets in the coming days, its first order of business will be figuring out what to do about that. MP Scott Aitchison, a former leadership contender himself, said this defeat should not spark more party infighting.
The idea of, ousting a leader just because they didn't win government, even after making incredible progress like he has, is a dumb idea. We need to build on the progress that Pierre's already made.
But first, they're going to have to find him a seat. There will be a mandatory leadership review at the party's next convention. At least some of Poilievre's attention now must focus on defending his own job, not challenging Carney's.
All right. Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa. Canada's GDP has declined. The latest data from Statistics Canada shows the gross domestic product for February is down 0.2%. Senior business correspondent Peter Armstrong puts that number into context.
This report is like a snapshot in time. The economy was in a very different place back in February. Back then, tariff concerns were only truly starting to ramp up, but consumers were already scaling back their purchases. Business confidence was already low, and so this 0.2% contraction is about what we had been expecting. Interestingly, though, the preliminary estimate for March came with an increase of 0.1%. Meanwhile, the U.S. economy actually shrank last quarter. Over January, February, and March, the U.S. economy slipped 0.3%. Peter Armstrong, CBC News, Toronto.
U.S. President Donald Trump is trying to soften the blow of some of his auto tariffs. Trump signed 2 executive orders yesterday. They will provide some relief on vehicle imports into the U.S. That will come through a mix of credits and reimbursements. But the 25% tariffs on auto imports will continue, and he says the 25% levies on auto parts will take effect as planned on May 3rd. Trump signed the orders right before holding a rally in Michigan, the heart of America's auto industry. The U.S. president marked his first 100 days in office there. The CBC's Paul Hunter was at that rally.
In 100 days, we have delivered the most profound change in Washington in nearly 100 years.
At his rally in Michigan, marking those 100 days, Trump listed some of the change the U.S. has seen since he moved back into the White House, not least those tariffs on, it seems, just about everything from other countries, including those targeting Canada's multi-billion-dollar auto industry. Says Trump to force jobs back into the U.S.
They all want to come back to Michigan and build cars again. You know why? Because of our tax and tariff policy.
A policy Trump hopes will achieve that, even if, as is already happening, it drives up prices in the U.S.
USA! 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 Hawaii!
Among the faithful lined up outside before the rally, Trump backer Norma Holm from Indiana on that.
That the tariffs, it is going to be bumpy for a while, but we have to be patient. This mess has developed for a while, so it's not going to go away in 100 years.
Are you willing to pay higher prices in the short term to get that in the long term?
Yes, I am.
Even as polls across the U.S. suggest support for Trump is falling, among his hardcore supporters at that rally, a consistent message remains in place: trust in Trump. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Macomb County, Michigan.
A top U.S. official says Israel has ample grounds to question the impartiality of the UN aid agency UNRWA. Josh Simmons is with the U.S. State Department legal team. He is testifying before the International Court of Justice. The world's top court is looking into whether Israel is violating international law by banning UNRWA from delivering aid to Gaza. Lauren Comato has more on today's hearings.
Going against the view of most countries, U.S. State Department legal advisor Josh Simmons told judges that Israel has discretion when it comes to its security and that it is not obliged to let organizations, including UNRWA, operate freely if it sees it as a risk.
There are serious concerns about UNRWA's impartiality, including information that Hamas has used UNRWA facilities and that UNRWA staff participated in the October 7th terrorist attack against Israel.
UNRWA is the main provider of aid in Gaza, but Israel has barred it from operating in the Gaza Strip, claiming the agency has been infiltrated by Hamas. UNRWA's head said this week that some 50 staff members in Gaza were abused or used as human shields while in Israeli custody. Israel halted all aid deliveries to Gaza early last month, where aid organizations say thousands of children are malnourished and the humanitarian aid system is facing total collapse. This week's hearings were requested by the UN General Assembly, which wants the court to give an advisory opinion on Israel's obligations regarding aid to Gaza. Although World Court opinions are not legally binding and take months to hand down, they carry legal and moral weight. Lauren Comato for CBC News, Amsterdam.
As it prepares for a 3-day ceasefire to take effect next week, Russia is intensifying its attacks on eastern Ukraine. There was a wave of drone strikes against the cities of Dnipro and Kharkiv overnight. Officials say one person was killed, 50 others were injured. Crystal Gomansing is following developments from London.
Emergency responders talk over a radio as they hold an elderly woman, guiding her in the dark through debris. The city of Kharkiv once again came under attack. More than 100 drones hit overnight into Wednesday morning, according to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. In an online post, he called for additional pressure, including sanctions, to force Russia into a ceasefire. France's foreign minister told the UN Security Council Tuesday the sole obstacle to peace in Ukraine is the Russian President Vladimir Putin. The U.S., meanwhile, is getting ready to walk away from talks. This statement was read on behalf of Secretary of State Marco Rubio yesterday.
We are now at a time where concrete proposals need to be delivered by the two parties on how to end this conflict. How we proceed from here is a decision that belongs now to the president. If there is not progress, we will step back as mediators.
Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov says the president remains open to political and diplomatic methods of resolving the conflict. He says Putin is open to direct talks with Ukraine, but it is Russia's duty to win the conflict. Crystal Gomansing, CBC News, London.
And before we go, some breaking news. Jonathan Pedno says he will step aside as co-leader of the Green Party. In a statement online, he says he failed twice to win a seat in the House of Commons. He also takes responsibility for not mobilizing the support for the Greens needed to re-elect Ontario MP Mike Morris. Pedno says the party is fortunate to have Elizabeth May's leadership going forward. And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime, cbcnews.ca. If you like the World Report podcast, please follow us and tell a friend. It helps spread the word. I'm Marcia Young.
Magandang umaga, good morning, Manitoba. Faith Fundal here, in for Marcy Marcusa in Studio 15 at Portage and Spence. This is Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Coming up in this half hour of the program, it is a superficial and cruel contest among men that leads to deepened emotions. We'll hear more about Dogfight the Musical, a preview from the CBC's Shanley Vidal. First, though, the Royal Winnipeg Ballet has an 85-year history, and Andre Lewis has been there for more than half of it. We'll hear from RWB's outgoing artistic director as he prepares for his final curtain call before retiring. Stay tuned for that and more coming up next year on Information Radio on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and on our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream. Caught myself there. It is 11 minutes after 8 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. No, this is not up to speed. No, you have not slept in. Of course, I am in for Marcy Marcusa. In studio this morning, from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk, Matt Humphrey, good morning.
Good morning. Fire crews in Winkler had their hands full yesterday afternoon with a hotel fire on Main Street. Crews rushed there after a fire was spotted on the roof of the Quality Inn and Suites. The hotel says all guests and staff and pets inside the building got out safely. No one was hurt. At the bottom of the hour, we'll hear from the former mayor of Winkler, who was once also a part owner of the hotel.
Glad to hear that no one was injured.
Indeed.
And the pets, too.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Back soon.
Matt Humphrey from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. Abby Adiemi is our technician and has been following the forecast. Remember I was complaining about the rain?
Yeah, it's subsided already.
I'm so glad. So glad.
It's now more like we're dealing with the sogginess. And don't splash people as you drive, please. Be considerate to other road users. We still see some rain drop lingering here and then parts of the southern region. And up north, we saw a bit of flaky snow around the Thompson area, but it's now transitioned to cloudy. Right now, it is 7 degrees in Winnipeg, mostly cloudy conditions. We're seeing some light rain still falling outside the city limits. As we get through the morning, it will taper off, making way for a mix of sunny conditions and some clouds will roll in. A slight chance of another batch of showers later in the afternoon. The winds will come from the south, and then it's going to ease up by the afternoon period. We track a mild high of 18 degrees and mostly cloudy conditions in the evening period. Similar conditions we're seeing in Brandon and Gimli at this time. Temperatures hovering around 7 degrees. And Dauphin is seeing some sunshine at 10 already.
All right. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Abby Adiemi watching the weather. Corey Funk is watching The Commute.
Mm-hmm.
About to get busy?
It might get, I guess, almost the opposite of busy in some senses because starting at 9 a.m. today, a bunch of streets are closing downtown for, of course, the Whiteout Party. So that does include Donald Street between Portage Avenue and St. Mary Avenue, starting today at 9 until 7 a.m. tomorrow. So heads up there as well. Eastbound and westbound Graham between Hargrave and Smith also closed today at 9 until 7 a.m. tomorrow for the Whiteout Party. Other than that, there's been a pretty quiet commute. I will let folks know that starting today, actually, as well, southbound Keewatin right around Logan is closed entirely for a month, right up until May 30th for sewer work. So if that includes your commute, you're going to find another way to get where you need to go. Those are the two biggest things going on. But if you see something going on, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. It's been pretty quiet. 204-788-3093.
Fourteen and a half minutes after 8 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, on the app, and of course on our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream. Good morning. Thanks for joining us today. The Royal Winnipeg Ballet's last show of the season is Bolero and Other Works. The show marks the final curtain call for a driving force within the RWB. Andre Lewis started off as a dance student in the professional division back in 1975. Afterwards, he spent a decade as a soloist. In 1990, he retired from dance and became associate artistic director. And for the past 30 years, he's been the RWB's artistic director. With a career that now spans about 50 years, Andre Lewis is stepping away from the RWB, and he joins us this morning by Zoom. Andre, welcome. Hello.
Hello, my pleasure being here.
Congratulations. It's your final show as artistic director. What words come to mind as you make your final bow?
Well, it's been an incredible journey coming here in 1975, a unilingual francophone, but quickly adapting to the ways of Winnipeg, its language, its ability. I stayed in St. Boniface at first, and then I moved downtown to be closer to the ballet at this time, 289 Portage Avenue. Joined the school for 4 years and was invited to be part of the company with Arnold Spohr as director, and then became associate artistic director, ultimately artistic director.
Going back to 1975 when you were at the RWB school, when you think back, what stands out for you that helped you develop your skill and also enhanced your appreciation of ballet?
Certainly, David Moroney, who was the director of the school, was a huge influence on me, giving me a love of ballet in all of its form. I was very fortunate to work with him. And then in the company, very fortunate to work with Arnold Spohr and a slew of different choreographers and directors that came within the confine of the RWB. And I have to say, I was also very fortunate when I started my career as artistic director. I had the incredible support of Caroline Gruber, my wife, who is a former student of the Royal Ballet School in London, who had also a career at the Dutch National as a soloist. We came together, built a family together, and she was really the glue behind our family.
For folks who are watching on YouTube, they would have seen just beside you a black and white photo. What was that photo? What comes up when you see that photo?
I believe that was Romeo and Juliet, a role that I was a young corps de ballet member, and Arnold Spohr, yeah, that's definitely Romeo and Juliet, and offered at the time, Rudy van Danzig, the choreographer and also director of the Dutch National, said, I want Andre to do Mercutio. It was a bit of a significant position because normally these roles would be given to soloists and principals of the organization. But Rudy really saw in me that ability to do the role of Mercutio. And he also gave me, on nights where I wasn't doing Mercutio, I was given the role of Romeo. So at a very, very young age, I had those significant responsibilities, which I took with great respect and seriousness.
Andre, I'm sure you have many memorable moments as an artistic director, and one might include Dracula. Take us back to 1998. Why was that one of your moments?
Well, the RWB, other than the classical full lengths, such as Swan Lake, Giselle, and Nutcracker, we only did mixed repertoire, shorter works. But I believe the audience's interest was also moving towards telling stories, like the ballet used to do when they created Sleeping Beauty, Swan Lake, Romeo and Juliet, and works of that nature over 100 years ago. But the RWB had not done that for a while. We had done full lengths in the past, but when I arrived, there were no full lengths. They were only mixed repertoire all year long, except for Nutcracker. So I commissioned Mark Godin to do Dracula, which was a fantastic work that really propelled the RWB and sustained us artistically and also financially, because it's important to have an audience. And I'm saying to everybody who wants to support me or support the RWB and say thank you to me, come to our show May 1st to 4th. That's where it's most important.
Andre, you've been doing this for a while. If there was one thing that you could do differently, what might that be? Do you have any regrets?
I don't have any regrets. You know, there are so many things could have gone so many different ways. I look at our Nutcracker, which is rooted in Winnipeg at the turn of the last century. It might have been the wrong decision to make, but because of it, we're able to perform our Nutcracker every year. The previous Nutcracker, which is a gorgeous version too, was done every 2 years. And other than that, we had to do we had to do a mix wrap at Christmas. So no, I have no regrets. I just also, one that was so important to me was Going Home Star Truth and Reconciliation, where Tina Keeper, who was an activist in the Indigenous community, had suggested to me, why don't we do a work based on the findings of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, to try to reach to a non-Indigenous group of people to give them a sense of what occurred in what was called then the residential school system. Very proud of it, very important. So no, I have no direct regrets. I wish I could do it longer, but I felt after 30 years, it's time for a new breath of fresh air. And I think Christopher Stowell will be just what the doctor ordered.
Andre, we know that arts organizations have been struggling and have been trying to convince folks to come. You have your core group of folks who love ballet and who want to come. What is your message to people who might not have been convinced yet to experience ballet and to come and put their butts in your seats and actually buy tickets?
Well, it comes from both ends. Us creating works that draw an audience, like Dracula, Handmaid's Tale, Magic Flute, a Cinderella story that makes people say, oh, I would like to see that. It's not that they are necessarily in tune with ballet. They can become that and are able to do that with time. But it's us finding works that will influence, that will echo, that will grab people and do it with them and with an audience, and then building them into supporters and ballet goers with time. But ultimately, the dance comes with people walking into the theater.
Andre, sounds like you're quite proud of this long career. Congratulations again, and thank you for making this space.
Thank you.
Andre Lewis is the outgoing artistic director for Royal Winnipeg Ballet. His final production with the RWB is Bolero and Other Works. And as you heard, it runs May 1st, tomorrow, through Sunday, May 4th at the Centennial Concert Hall.
Patio season is upon us, and the Winnipeg Comedy Festival is hosting some serious fun at the Gas Station Arts Center patio April 30th to May 4th. Featuring the Great Comedy Showdown, the music of DJ JPQ, and the CBC Fun Zone of patio games. Free, all ages, every festival day. The Winnipeg Comedy Festival. Seriously funny. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for details.
23 minutes after 8 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Listen app and our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream. I'm Faith Vondal in for Marcy Marcusa. It's a story about a cruel bet made among young men at a time in the tumultuous 1960s. U.S. soldiers try to find the least attractive date in order to win a pot of cash before shipping out to Vietnam. With emotions on the line, it becomes much more than a game. It is the premise of Dogfight the Musical. It's on for a short run at Prairie Theatre Exchange starting tonight. The CBC's Shanley Vidal recently attended a rehearsal.
Whoa! Hey, good looking, got me on my knees. Hey, good looking, got me begging, please.
My name is Kelly Robinson, and I'm the music director for Dogfight. You just saw the cast singing Hey Good Lookin', and the Marines in this show, Dogfight, have decided to throw a party called the Dogfight, where whoever brings the ugliest date to the party wins the pot, all the money. So the scene you just saw was all the Marines out there looking for a date to bring to the party.
The musical premiered off-Broadway in 2012. It's based on the 1991 film of the same name.
The ugliest woman wins $100 for the guy who brings her. I'm the ugliest.
Set in 1963 America, the movie was controversial for its portrayal of women, but was praised by critics for its emotional exploration.
I'll give him a 7.
Composers responsible for Dogfight are Pasek and Paul, who many people will know. They've composed The Greatest Showman, they've written Dear Evan Hansen, James and the Giant Peach, and the music is absolutely incredible. It's so powerful. So in this show, it goes between really emotional ballads, very testosterone-driven rock songs for the Marines as they're getting their energy ready to leave for the war, and it's just very moving, very emotional. I think everyone will get something different from listening to the score. The harmonies are incredible and very complex. So in some shows, you'll hear 2- and 3-part harmonies. In this show, you'll hear 5, 6, 7 parts happening at the same time with overlapping text, all different counter melodies, a lot of very, very complex musical elements.
I'm Justin Stadnick, and I'm the director of Dogfight for Dry Cold Productions. It actually takes place the day before JFK was assassinated, and then that kind of veil was stripped away, and they shipped all these people off to Vietnam, which is where our Marines are heading. And then not until, in our story, Eddie Birdlace comes back does he realize the world, and America specifically, has changed in a major way.
Stadnick says the biggest challenge of the musical is the content itself.
The material is pretty thick with misogyny and just bad language and treating humans poorly. The whole point of that is to have a moment at the end where we see our lead female character just crack open our Marines a little bit with her natural empathy and compassion.
I've been looking for
Dry Cold Productions was founded more than 20 years ago. The idea was to produce musicals that hadn't yet been seen in Winnipeg.
I'm Reed Harrison. I'm the co-founder of Dry Cold Production with Donna Fletcher, another local actor. We've grown into being the company in the city that does the most contemporary of musical theater. Like we've done some Sondheim that goes back to the 70s, but for the most part, it's been recent. So we're doing shows that are maybe we're premiering in Canada. We did The Prom a couple of years ago, which is the Canadian premiere. This show we're premiering certainly in Western Canada. So a little bit more cutting edge. Some level, we're doing what we are afraid no one else will do.
Shanalee Vidal, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And you can catch Dogfight the Musical tonight, all through Saturday at Prairie Theatre Exchange. Today is the 50th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War.
The Music Class Challenge, presented by Music Counts, is back. And for the first time, there's a spring edition. Music educators across the country pick a song from our list, create a cover version, and upload a video of your class performing the cover. Amazing prizes are up for grabs, including $30,000 worth of new musical instruments. Check out all the details and register now at cbc.ca/musicclass.
28 and a half minutes after 8 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and on the CBC Manitoba YouTube page. By the way, that is where you can find yesterday's call-in, or portions of that at least, from Radio Noon. A lot of folks had a lot to say about the post-election results. And you get another chance today to talk about things you care about. Marjorie Dowhouse is host of Radio Noon in studio now. What is the next big thing today?
Well, the next big thing is the weather's warming up. People are getting outside. So let's talk about birds.
Yes.
We're launching a new regular call-in segment on Radio Noon. It's going to be every other Wednesday, Bird Calls. We're going to be speaking with Rudolph Coase, who is a bird expert naturalist, about anything birds. So it doesn't have to be a specific question. Maybe you have seen a bird out there that you think is really cool and you want to share, what it is, where you saw it. Join the conversation. Text, call us after 12:30. Because, Faith, Who doesn't love birds?
And I always have so many questions. I see things and I'm like, I think that's a fancy bird that I've never actually looked
And it
at.
probably is too, right? Yeah.
So today at after 12:30?
That's right, Faith.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's Marjorie Dowhouse, host of Radio Noon. And of course, you can tune in to Radio Noon at 12 o'clock right here on CBC Radio 1. And don't forget about the call-in portion after your 12:30 news. I'm Faith Mundal in for Marcy Marcusa here on Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. We'll give you a full look at your forecast and a last look at the commute after your CBC Winnipeg news.
This is CBC News. At 8:30, we're at 7 degrees with cloudy skies over downtown Winnipeg. Good morning. I'm Matt Humphrey. Several ceremonies were held across the country this week in the wake of the tragedy in Vancouver.
Lupang hinirang, tuyan ka nang magiting, sa manlulupig.
Jerilyn Bulaong sings the Philippine national anthem during a vigil last night in Winnipeg. 11 people were killed and dozens more were hurt after an SUV plowed through a Vancouver street festival Saturday night. Bayani Marcelino and his wife Esperanza have relatives who plan to attend the festival, and they were relieved to learn they weren't hurt, but they were still deeply shaken and felt they had to pay their respects to the victims.
Last night I can't sleep because for me, they're all family. We are all family because they are Filipino.
A 30-year-old man faces several charges, including second-degree murder. No one was hurt after a fire in a popular hotel and restaurant complex in Winkler. Main Street was closed for hours yesterday after a fire started in the Quality Inn and Suites. Martin Harder is the former mayor of Winkler and a former co-owner of the hotel. He says he went to see what was happening when he could see the smoke.
The sky was black, and later on we saw the flames that were shooting up through the roof, and the whole centerpiece there came down.
Harder says the roof caved in on the center section of the hotel where the restaurant, pool, and several rooms were located. The Quality Inn and Suites says all hotel and restaurant guests, staff, and pets got out safely. The cause of the fire is under investigation. The union representing Manitoba nurses says a recent assault on a nurse at the Brandon Hospital reflects a growing wave of healthcare worker abuse. Early Monday morning, Brandon police arrested a man after he choked and tried to stab an emergency room nurse with a needle. Manitoba Nurses Union President Darlene Jackson says violence and abuse in emergency departments is increasing, and she worries abuse on the job is becoming part of the daily routine.
The bad thing is that's why nurses are really not reporting it. It's like you get so used to it that it's just like, well, at least they didn't hit me. At least they didn't punch me. I only got spat on and sworn at. And none of that is acceptable.
Prairie Mountain Health says it's investigating the assault and increasing security at the hospital. The Liberal candidate who flipped an NDP stronghold in northern Manitoba says her constituents want to see economic growth. Rebecca Chartrand defeated New Democrat Nikki Ashton in Churchill-Kiewatinook-Aski by more than 3,400 votes. Ashton had represented the riding in the House of Commons since 2008 and beat Chartrand in the 2015 election. The area is home to one of the highest percentages of First Nations people in Canada. Today marks the 50th anniversary of the fall of Saigon and the end of the Vietnam War. The protracted conflict involved more than a dozen countries, lasted 2 decades, and cost hundreds of thousands of lives. It also led to the displacement of close to 1 million people, many of whom spent years in refugee camps before finding new homes in other parts of the world. Winnipeg doctor Chow Pham was one of those people. She was just 5 when her family made the painful choice to send her away from South Vietnam.
And I couldn't quite piece together what was going on, but I knew it was not right. In the eyes of a 5-year-old, I knew that I was losing my family.
Pham endured hardships and tragedy during the 2 years she spent in a refugee camp in Thailand. In 1990, she was finally reunited with her family in Winnipeg. And finally, a Winnipeg business owner says it's a dream come true to print towels and other merchandise for the Winnipeg Jets during the playoffs. Michelle Cameron of Dreamcatcher Promotions and her team have been hard at work pumping out white apparel. Cameron says there's also added pride being an Indigenous-owned local business, working with the team at the most important time of the season.
It's hope
that we can do this and there's opportunities that we've never seen before. So for me, that's why this is such a proud moment for me, right? Because we're setting the bar and we're setting up a path for other Indigenous entrepreneurs to have the same opportunities I had.
Cameron says they've already printed tens of thousands of towels for round 1, but she's hoping they'll keep winning starting tonight at 8:30, so they can keep printing whiteout merch all the way to the Stanley Cup final. And that's your CBC News from Winnipeg.
All right, thanks very much.
Thanks for the morning, Faith.
Thank you as well, Matt Humphrey from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. You got to say your thing. Back soon. I just did it for you. We're at 35 minutes after 8 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. And a big thanks to the folks who helped put the show together. Our associate producers, Chidi Akuma and Sierra Sanders. Our community reporter, Shanley Vidal. Our producer for the shows here, Nelly Gonzalez. And our senior producer of audio at CBC Manitoba, Leif Larson. Of course, our live crew, Corey Funk, Abby Adiemi, and Brad Lillies, making sure we all look good for our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream. Corey Funk, you have a last look at the commute?
Yeah, Donald, between Portage Avenue and St. Mary Avenue, going to be closed starting at 9 a.m. today until tomorrow at 7 a.m. for, of course, the Whiteout Party. That also includes eastbound and westbound Graham between Hargrave Street and Smith Street, starting at 9 today until 7 a.m.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Abby Adiemi, thank you for making the rain go away.
Yeah, it's a tale of two seasons today, actually. Down south, we're seeing more like that soggy stat with the rain already shaking it off, and we're seeing the sunshine in most of the areas. The south will be warming up to between 16 and 18 degrees. Perfect sweater weather, I would say. A sunny twist. While you go up north, it's chillier. We're going to be seeing highs around 8 degrees and a few flurries flying around in the Thompson region, while Churchill will be stuck around -12.
I didn't ask you. Your best Go Jets go. Here we go. Go.
Go, boys!
Go, boys. I like that. All right. Thank you. Abby Adiemi there. I guess I have to do it. Okay, 1 second. I got to move away from the mic. 1 second. Go, Jets, go! Go, Jets, go! It's my bandwagon joiner. Cheer. That's the word, cheer. That's what I'm looking for, right?
Yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah. I'm Faith Mundell in for Marcy Marcusha. She'll be back tomorrow morning, but don't forget Radio Noon at 12 o'clock with Marjorie Dowhouse and Chloe Friesen sitting in the host chair on Up to Speed. Take care. The Current is next.